A man is a being who transcends all things. While everyone else is worried about the future, he has single-handedly destroyed the astral pavilion branch, all for the sake of living a happy life without worries. Meanwhile, at the old house, Zhong Yangming yawns and asks listlessly, "Prince, is this really okay?" Xiao Tian is unfazed. "What's not okay? Is it difficult to assist me?" Zhong Yangming finally explains, "Prince, my wife will panic if she wakes up and finds me mysteriously gone. Bad things could happen. In the time it took me to just roll over, I was dragged here by Prince to do heavy lifting. It's terrible." Xiao Tian smiles. "Zhong Ling is outside. She can explain for you later. Take this out." Zhong Yangming is puzzled. "There are only 5 of us. Why do we need so many bowls and chopsticks?" Seeing Zhong Yangming standing still, Xiao Tian turns to urge him, "Hurry up." Leaving the yard, Zhong Yangming realizes his mistake. But what's the deal with that purple-haired, horned woman in a tail too? She looks scary and disgusting. Moments later, Xiao Tian calls for noodles. Everyone is silent, making the atmosphere awkward. Empress Ziruoyan and Luo Fengyuan are staring at each other intensely. Both are silently comforting themselves not to get angry. "We can't kill our own Xiao Tian because of the humiliating scene last night. Why must I remember such an embarrassing, humiliating scene?" Zhong Ling and Lu Yan are also glaring at the 3 people on the other side. How annoying. Are these horned women transformed from cows? How can they be so large? Moments later, Zhong Yangming is the first to ask, "Prince, what exactly is going on here?" Empress Ziruoyan responds, "It won't hurt for you all to know. There aren't many people in the Great Flame Dynasty whom I can trust. However, after hearing it, you'll need to stay calm." Luo Fengyuan's 3 subordinates shake their heads. These humans probably can't handle the truth. Ziruoyan then begins to narrate slowly. "It has to do with my father and the Great Flame Dynasty." Soon, a quarter of an hour passes. The situation is as follows. "The truth is horrifying, but I hope." Before Ziruoyan could finish, Zhong Yangming mutters to himself, "So that's how it is." This explains Lu Outyan's strange behavior. Zhong Ling asks Lu Yan in a daze, "This is making my head spin. Do you understand, Sister Lu Yan?" Lu Yan puts it succinctly, in simple terms, "We're being raised like pigs to be slaughtered when we're fat enough." Zhong Ling instantly understands, and upon seeing this, Luo Fengyuan can't help but praise, "Remarkable. You've truly impressed me. Facing such truth and still maintaining your composure, that's really impressive." At this point, Zhong Yangming suddenly stands up and asks, "Lord of the Demon Empress, may I inquire if there's no turning back once this innate embryo jade matures?" Faced with his own Xiao Tian chef, Luo Fengyuan seriously explains, "Not necessarily. Thanks to the barrier of this special region, anyone who wishes to enter must suppress their cultivation to the 10th stage. Those who would come in to snatch the innate embryo jade are all at this level." Saying this, Luo Fengyuan gives Ziruoyan a slightly provocative look. "My true cultivation level is much higher than yours." Ziruoyan's face turns red as she huffs. "So what? I will surpass you sooner or later." Luo Fengyuan laughs, her eyes filled with indulgence. "You look really cute when you're being stubborn." Ziruoyan's face grows hotter, but she continues to deny, "I am not. You are so annoying," bursting into laughter, still denying it. "Ha ha ha." On the side, the trio of Zhong Yangming are still discussing. "If that's the case, then we're not entirely powerless. That's good. The Emperor is already at the 10th stage. With the aid of the Imperial City's array, as long as the opponent doesn't exceed this level, I believe the Emperor can handle it." Zhong Ling covers her mouth and giggles. "Anyway, we can't lose." The eldest offers an explanation. "To you, the 10th stage may seem strong, but for the Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion, this level of strength is not uncommon." Hearing this, the 3 who know Xiao Tian's true power all look at him at once. Although Prince appears to be in a daze, focusing only on his bowl of food, none of the 3 are anxious. This secret weapon will take action when cornered. At this moment, Luo Fengyuan, seeing the seemingly easy-to-bully Ziruoyan, suddenly presses her against himself, a triumphant look on her face. "Come on, my little darling, keep going. I'm waiting for you to hit me." But Ziruoyan is firmly pressed and can't speak, only managing to emit sounds of discontent. Just at this moment, Luo Fengyuan suddenly looks up and sees the astonished faces of Zhong Yangming, Zhong Ling, and Lu Yan. She thinks they are frightened by the mention of Astral Pavilion and Eastern Flame Kingdom, so she decides to comfort them. Therefore, Luo Fengyuan releases Ziruoyan and turns to the 3, smiling, "You don't need to worry too much. I will personally assist you. The Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion are easy to deal with." He then looks back at Ziruoyan and says, "Speaking of which, you previously invited me to live in the palace. Does that offer still stand?" Ziruoyan pauses for a moment. Why did she pity her in the first place? Although her sympathy got valuable information and a new ally, she is really annoyed by her. Seeing Ziruoyan remain silent, Luo Fengyuan continues to chuckle. "Ah, the Great Flame Empress, a direct descendant of the legitimate imperial bloodline. You're not going to back out, are you? I've already shared valuable information and even plan to help you." Seeing Luo Fengyuan's expression, the Empress clenches her teeth, filled with inner criticism. What are you really up to? Do you think I don't know?" Yet Ziruoyan clears her throat and states, "My word is gold. What I say, I do." Although she regrets saying it instantly, thinking thinking, so annoying. Why did I agree to this holy demon empress? I can't calm down at all. Luo Fengyuan smiles very contentedly. As expected of the great flame empress, you do as you say. However, at this moment, Ziruoyan suddenly puts forth her conditions. Don't be too pleased just yet. Entering the palace is fine, but there are rules. First, Xiao Tian belongs to you in the morning, but he's mine in the afternoon and evening. As she says this, she points at Xiao Tian, who looks confused. Second, you're only allowed to share a bed with me. No sneaking off to Xiao Tian in the night. Third, you must spar with me to improve my strength. No more drinking contests with me. Saying this, Ziruoyan moves closer but is immediately pushed away by Luo Fengyuan, who exclaims, "No way, are you an idiot? If we're together every night, wouldn't others benefit? Change the second condition. The three of us should be together, understand?" Watching Luo Fengyuan pinch her cheek, Zhong Yangming covers his mouth, struggling to hold back laughter. Then, he pats Xiao Tian's shoulder and says, "Prince, you've had it tough. You've sacrificed so much for the people of Great Flame. By the way, Prince, would you like some nutritional supplements?" Annoyed, Xiao Tian pushes him away and retorts, "What are you thinking? Stop looking at me like that." Only Luo Fengyuan's three subordinates in the room feel a massive headache coming on. "My Empress, what are you doing? We are here to seize the national fate. Why did you get yourself involved?" It's beyond words. At this moment, in a side chamber of the palace, Xiao Tian lies between the two empresses, Ziruoyan and Luo Fengyuan, each gripping one of his hands. The blanket has long since been kicked away. Slowly opening his eyes, Xiao Tian realizes that sharing a bed, which he once looked forward to, isn't what it seemed. Dark circles under his eyes. He thinks he can't lie down any longer. His body just can't take it. In the next second, Xiao Tian maintains his supine position and slowly floats up between the two women. Then he heads straight for the door. Ziruoyan and Luo Fengyuan seem somewhat unaccustomed to his departure. They reach out, grasp for a bit, then end up embracing each other before falling back asleep. Xiao Tian steps out into the courtyard, breathing in the fresh air. However, his stomach rumbles with hunger. If I go to Zhong Yangming now, I should be able to get some breakfast. Not long after, at the Zhong family dining table, Zhong Lishuang takes a bite from a large bun and frowns at Xiao Tian. "Prince, why are you here again?" Xiao Tian smiles and says, "Isn't it because Master Zhong's cooking is so good? Look at this bun. Oh my, why is this bun so small?" He takes a big bite, thinking that this bun is really small and nowhere near as good as Luo Fengyuan's, or even Ziruoyan's. "Prince, be careful with your words." Zhong Yangming coughs twice, looking helplessly at Xiao Tian. However, Xiao Tian casually shakes the bun in his hand and says, "You're not that serious either. Heavy armored cavalry. You have unique tastes and yet you often make fun of me." Zhong Yangming's face turns red instantly and he doesn't know what to say. Just then, someone from outside yells, "Madam, there's a situation." Zhong Lishuang instantly appears in the courtyard and takes the letter. After reading the statement inside, her face changes immediately. This is outrageous. Upon hearing the exclamation, Zhong Yangming rushes out to ask what happened. Zhong Lishuang then explains, "Astral Pavilion has been destroyed. There's a letter left behind, saying acting on behalf of heaven. It's suspected to be the work of the King of Hell." Hearing this, Zhong Yangming simply responds with a disinterested "oh," seemingly not too concerned. This confuses Zhong Lishuang. Is this guy really so composed? And what about Linger? Why aren't these father and daughter surprised at all? No, now is not the time to worry about them. Immediately, Zhong Lishuang, with a serious expression, tells everyone, "I have to go to the palace to report this to His Majesty right away. I don't know what the King of Hell is up to, causing so much turmoil everywhere. Maybe he..." Before she can finish, Zhong Yangming interrupts, "Madam, if there's an urgent matter, you should quickly go to the palace to report to Her Majesty. Don't waste time here. It's crucial to get there as soon as possible." Upon hearing her husband's concern, Zhong Lishuang gives him a kiss. "My husband speaks wisely. I'll be back soon." After she leaves, Zhong Yangming wipes sweat from his forehead. "Ah, my wife, the King of Hell is right in front of you. You can't afford to speak recklessly." Returning to the dining table, Zhong Yangming immediately explains to Xiao Tian, "Prince, please don't take my wife's ignorance to heart." Xiao Tian waves it off. "I'm not petty enough to hold a grudge over a few words." Upon hearing this, both Zhong Yangming and Zhong Ling nearly roll their eyes to the heavens. "Do you even believe what you're saying, Prince?" Then, Zhong Yangming suddenly asks Xiao Tian, "With the fall of Astral Pavilion, I suspect Lu Outyin won't be able to sit still." Xiao Tian looks unconcerned. There's no need to rush. With Ziruoyan and Luo Fengyuan joining forces, two empresses combined, even Astral Pavilion and Eastern Flame Kingdom don't stand a chance. After all, these women are my breadwinners. Just then, Zhong Lishuang returns, looking displeased. Zhong Yangming is puzzled. "Madam, why did you come back so soon?" Shaking her head, Zhong Lishuang solemnly informs Xiao Tian, "Prince, I have something to tell you. Don't take it too hard. A purple-haired woman may have cuckolded you. I went to see His Majesty and found them kissing." Xiao Tian feels a chill run down his spine. Just then, a helpless Lu Yan enters the courtyard with Zhong Lishuang, explaining, "General, you misunderstand. Things are not as they seem." Zhong Lishuang frowns, looking back at her former subordinate. "Where's the misunderstanding? When I went there, His Majesty was indeed embracing that purple-haired woman and passionately kissing her. Lu Yan looked somewhat helpless. It's good you don't know the identity of the holy demon Empress, otherwise, things would be worse. Xiao Tian, appearing to understand, says, so they've started fighting, haven't they? Lu Yan nods. Prince, you're right. Her Majesty and Lord Luo had some sort of morning crankiness, so they started sparring in the courtyard. They had a fight, and when not using their cultivation, Her Majesty kept aiming for Lord Luo's chest, and in a moment of desperation, Lord Luo grabbed Her Majesty's hand and pulled it toward her, causing their lips to accidentally touch. Her Majesty thought Lord Luo did it on purpose and kissed back in anger. Lord Luo thought Her Majesty was being a scoundrel and, irritated, tried to bite Her Majesty's face. In retaliation, Her Majesty bit Lord Luo's head. That's when you, General, walked in, and perhaps from your angle, you misunderstood. Upon hearing Lu Yan's explanation, Zhong Li Xuang feels somewhat embarrassed. Zhong Ling, standing beside her, can't help but laugh. Her Majesty is suddenly acting like a child, causing such a ruckus. This might actually be a good thing. Though they may not be good friends, at least Her Majesty has found a playmate. Zhong Yaoming's face reveals a look of relief. Upon hearing the word friends, Xiao Tian packs his things into his system space and mutters as if reminiscing, I used to have some friends too. Unfortunately, they were all killed because of schemes by my adoptive father. His sudden muttering sends a shiver down the spines of Zhong Yaoming and Zhong Ling, who are sitting next to him. Prince, what sort of schemes did your adoptive father use? Zhong Ling asks cautiously. After a moment of silence, Xiao Tian slowly speaks. My adoptive father, in order to teach me not to trust people easily, coerced them into trying to kill me. Unfortunately, it took me a long time to learn the truth. I misunderstood them for so long. No wonder they kept crying and saying they were sorry. The one who should apologize is me. Xiao Tian looks up at the distant sky and laughs, as if recalling something. But we're friends too, aren't we? Zhong Ling suddenly chimes in. When we were young, the late emperor said that friends always have little secrets. I was friends with the late emperor, and now I'm friends with the prince. You cheeky girl, getting ahead of yourself. Are you trying to be my equal? Zhong Yangming's eyes widen in disbelief. You're mixing up generations here. Zhong Ling sticks out her tongue at Zhong Yangming. It's just a metaphor. Why are you getting so worked up? Besides, you're not worthy to be friends with the prince. You little brat, don't make me discipline you. Come on, Dad. You couldn't beat me if you tried. Zhong Ling shrugs, leaving Zhong Yangming fuming and powerless. Just then, Zhong Li Xuang suddenly roars like a lioness and slaps the table. Are you ignoring what I say? Who allowed you to only eat the filling and not the skin of the bun? If you're not disciplined for 3 days, the roof tiles will lift off. With that, Zhong Li Xuang grabs Zhong Ling and starts spanking her. My dear wife, you're hitting too hard. Zhong Yangming, who was fuming just a moment ago, rushes over with concern, only to be met with a scolding from his wife. How dare you speak? This girl's behavior is all because you spoil her. Xiao Tian sits there silently, watching the family drama unfold before him. He finally speaks. It's wonderful. Do you know why my cooking skills are actually not inferior to Zhong Yangming's, yet I prefer to eat his dishes? Lu Yan smiles at Xiao Tian. Is it for the same reason you cook noodles for Her Majesty and the others? Commander Lu is right. Xiao Tian stands up, propping himself on his knees, and looks at the family of 3 in the distance. The food that Zhong Yangming makes is not just for me, but also for his family. Dishes cooked with love and intent for one's family are, of course, irresistibly delicious. Let's go back to the palace. I suspect our Empress and the Demon Emperor are probably starving by now. Saying this, Xiao Tian casually walks towards the exit of the estate, his hands behind his back. Lu Yan nods silently, casting a somewhat pitiful look at Xiao Tian's retreating figure. At this moment, Zi Ruoyan angrily chops Luo Fengyuan on the head with the side of her hand. Are you an idiot? How did you become the Demon Empress? Luo Fengyuan, clutching his head, mumbles indifferently, fought my way up. Zi Ruoyan sighs in exasperation. It's a wonder the primordial demon kingdom hasn't been ruined by your family. She then points to the content in the book, different strokes for different folks. However, upon hearing these wise teachings, Luo Fengyuan becomes instantly confused. Not coddling her, chops her head again. Pay attention. I really am paying attention. Luo Fengyuan moans, clutching his head. Zi Ruoyan continues to go through the primordial demon kingdom's information, saying, many things can't be generalized. You need to understand. Yet Luo Fengyuan is staring intently at her face, thinking, how is she so amazing? Noticing her gaze, Zi Ruoyan is dumbfounded. This guy's mind is filled with nothing but Xiao Tian and fighting. She knows nothing about governance, yet she's still an empress. But then again, her chest is so big, she must have traded her brain for it. Later, with Zi Ruoyan's help, Luo Fengyuan uses her avatar to issue various orders in the primordial demon kingdom. The officials are overjoyed and in tears. Finally, our demon empress is willing to use her brain. She stopped cutting people down at the drop of a hat. However, her avatar seems perplexed. Why can't we just cut them down? It's such a hassle. Can't I just do it later? Why do we have to think? On the other side, Zi Ruoyan's Empress mini classroom session comes to a temporary end. Luo Fengyuan lies dizzily on the desk. Why is being an empress so complicated? My former subjects never consulted me like this. From a nearby reclining chair, there. Xiao Tian suddenly chimes in, probably because they were afraid you'd cut them down. Being an empress is hard and technical work. There's much for you to learn. As soon as Xiao Tian finishes speaking, Ziruoyan places a large pile of memoranda in front of Luo Fengyuan. These are all summaries from your personal guards regarding the state of affairs in the primordial demon kingdom. Review them carefully. I will check them later. For the sake of your people, do your best. Ziruoyan's face betrays a mix of frustration and hopeful expectation, as if wishing for her to excel. Luo Fengyuan looks helplessly at her bodyguard, begging, "Help me." Her guard looked at her helplessly. The eldest sighed and comforted, "Demon Empress, my lady. The Great Flame Empress does make a lot of sense. Empress Z can patiently teach you. You should cherish it. Work hard and stop running away." Xiao Tian on the side picked up a drink and took a big sip. Exactly. If you don't govern the country well, your family fortune will eventually run out. Upon hearing this, Luo Fengyuan slammed her fist on the table. "We can't let the family fortune run out. Otherwise, how will we support Xiao Tian?" At this moment, Xiao Tian is lying on a lounge chair, sipping a drink. In the eyes of Ziruoyan and Luo Fengyuan, he looks extremely adorable and good-looking. After a moment, Luo Fengyuan looked up again at Ziruoyan, who was focused on reviewing petitions. This person is really amazing. How can she review so many petitions without getting dizzy? Meanwhile, outside the palace, the winds and clouds are changing, as if something big is about to happen. At this moment, inside the Prime Minister's residence, a person in black told Lu Outyin, "The Eastern Flame Kingdom has responded. The Emperor agrees with your plan, but the problem is, if you really do this, people will die." Lu Outyin looked indifferent. "Touch my face." The man in black hesitated, pondered for a moment, and then said, "Are you insane?" But seeing Lu Outyin's serious face, the man in black sighed, stepped forward, and extended a finger. Just as he was about to touch Lu Outyin suddenly turned into a shadow of light and disappeared in front of him. The man in black then understood. "I should have known. Your advanced dodging technique in close combat is remarkable. In our generation, you were dominant because of this." Lu Outyin waved his hand. "A hero doesn't talk about past bravery. Zhou Jitian has been above me for so many years." Upon hearing this, the man in black laughed. "But Zhou Jitian doesn't even have a head now. Astral Pavilion's branch has been destroyed. They lost their opportunity. The Emperor agrees with your plan and has sworn he will take care of the Lu family." Lu Outyin took the imperial edict handed to him and took a long sigh of relief. "Good. The positions of those who died at Green Flame Mountain will immediately be filled by newcomers from Eastern Flame Kingdom. From now on, the highest command in this area will be given to you. Don't let me down. All for Eastern Flame." The man in black seemed a bit excited and repeated, "All for Eastern Flame." The next second, the man in black suddenly burst into tears. "Big brother." Lu Outyin was stunned, even doubting his own ears for a moment. After a while, Lu Outyin sighed softly. "It's been many years since I've heard you call me that. Go." The man in black nodded and quickly left. Lu Outyin then sat at his desk and began to write a letter. "Prince Xiao, or should I call you King of Hell? Although it's just a guess, I think it's very likely. Upon reading this, King of Hell, don't act rashly. Don't be in a hurry to come and kill me. Otherwise, nearly 70% of the Imperial City's populace will be buried with me. After reading the letter, please come to number 1 Sky in the east of the Imperial City to meet at the Empress and Prince's love-filled and emotional Sunshine Welfare Institute. By the way, let me mention, naming it like this is really a bit off." Xiao Tian looked at the letter with a heavy face. Lu Yan next to him couldn't help but ask, "Prince, what happened?" Xiao Tian nodded. "It's very serious. Even more tricky than I thought." "Commander Lu, let me ask you," Xiao Tian said while holding his forehead. "It really seems difficult to understand. You see, is the name Empress and Prince's love-filled and emotional Sunshine Welfare Institute really that problematic? Changing it now would be a complicated process. Very tricky indeed." Upon hearing this, Lu Yan was completely stunned. "So you're worried about this?" But she still comforted Xiao Tian. "Don't overthink it, Prince. The name is quite nice." Xiao Tian nodded. "That's good. Then it's just Lu Outyan's personal taste issue. By the way, the Welfare Institute, mainly funded by Luo Fengyuan recently, is about to be completed. What do you think of the name? Wholehearted Prince and loving Lady Luo's sincere contribution to a beautiful and happy Welfare Institute." Lu Yan immediately gave a big thumbs up. "The name Prince came up with is excellent, very thematic, and it promotes the positive energy you've taught us." Xiao Tian was also very excited. "Commander Lu has good taste. Lu Outyan has terrible taste." Saying that, Xiao Tian slowly stood up. "All right, it's time for me to have a talk with Lu Outyan." Lu Yan was puzzled. "Prince, what does Lu Outyan want with you?" Xiao Tian waved his hand. "Don't worry, I won't die." However, Lu Yan suddenly became worried. "Prince, could there be an ambush?" The next second, Lu Yan recalled the time he used the toxic swamp as a facial mask. On second thought, never mind. With Prince's strength, it would be him ambushing a group of people led by Lu Outyan. After reading Prime Minister Lu's threatening letter, Xiao Tian hurried to the Welfare Institute. A little girl missing an arm looked up at him, wanting Xiao Tian to be her father. "Wow, I considered you my little sister, and now you want me to be your father? Dream on. How could this prince afford to raise you?" Xiao Tian picked up the little girl. "I will always be your big brother Xiao. Let's make that clear." The little girl girl hugged Xiao Tian's neck tightly with her only hand. It turns out that she was once a pitiable beggar controlled by others. If it weren't for the beggar boss being captured by the prince, she would still be kneeling on the street in the cold wind, begging laboriously. Now she has new clothes to wear, can read and write, and even learn cultivation from teachers. Seeing the group of children before him, Xiao Tian's previously gloomy mood greatly improved. Don't push. Be careful not to fall. Take it easy. No need to rush. Which little rascal touched my butt again? Xiao Tian pretended to be angry, making the bunch of children burst into laughter. So, surrounded by children, Xiao Tian entered the Welfare Institute. Along the way, the elderly in the yard looked kindly at the Great Flame Prince being escorted by children. Thanks to Lord Prince, he paid for our housing and allows these children to learn. And even we, the older ones, can contribute using our skills. At this time, inside the Welfare Institute, Lu Outyen, the Prime Minister of Great Flame, was making tea. The title of Supreme Benevolent Sugar Baby Deity suits Prince Xiao very well. You're deeply loved by the people and especially adored by these children. While pouring tea, Lu Outyen looked at Xiao Tian. Seeing Xiao Tian remain silent, Lu Outyen directly tugged at his robe, exposing the area over his heart. Prince Xiao, now we can sit down and talk over tea. If I suffer even a minor injury, this trap void turbulence rune formation will detonate. I can't speak for others, but this Welfare Institute will collapse instantly. And these pitiable children, those pitiable people, they will all die. As Lu Outyen's words fell, he gently placed a jade cup across the table. Please, Lord Prince. Seeing this scene, Xiao Tian sighed, put down the little girl in his arms, and told everyone to move back. This is adult business. Children shouldn't be involved. After saying this, Xiao Tian walked straight to the opposite side of Lu Outyen and sat down, drinking all the tea in the pot in one go. Now that we're done, let's talk business. This made the corner of Lu Outyen's mouth twitch slightly. Damn it, this Xiao Tian is still so annoying. Xiao Tian flexed his hands and looked at Lu Outyen. What would be the consequences if I kill you now? Hearing this, Lu Outyen pointed at his heart and explained, the Trap Void Turbulence Rune formation is a killer weapon, combining both formation and rune. The main rune is connected to my life. 8 subrunes are placed at 8 directions around the Imperial City. If I die, the subrunes will explode, causing spatial collapse and temporal turbulence. 70% of the people in the Imperial City will undoubtedly die. As soon as the words were spoken, a rune suddenly appeared in the sky above the Welfare Institute. Immediately following, the space in this area was all sealed off. This startled Xiao Tian. What is this? At this moment, both of them looked at the rune above their heads. Lu Outyen chuckled lightly. The rune formation is activating. Once it's fully activated, you and I will be trapped within this formation constructed by the 8 subrunes. Once the trapping formation is fully established, the main rune on my chest will also activate. At that time, the space within the formation will break and collapse, pulling both of us into a temporal turbulence. Of course, given your strength, perhaps killing me now would leave you unharmed, but this Welfare Institute and the people of the Imperial City would suffer terribly. Lu Outyen became more excited as he spoke. If I die, the rune on my chest will detonate. 70% of the population would be affected, with the worst impact being on the people closest to us in this Welfare Institute. Saying this, he suddenly leaned forward on the table, slowly moving closer to Xiao Tian. Xiao Tian, would you strike me down? Xiao Tian turned his head to look at the children in the Welfare Institute, and immediately made up his mind. With a serious face, he replied, at least for now, I won't. Upon hearing this, Lu Outyen felt a triumphant thrill. He couldn't help but burst into laughter. Shortly after, Lu Outyen bowed to Xiao Tian. I indeed have not misjudged you. On behalf of the people of the Imperial City, I thank Prince for his benevolence. Saying this, Lu Outyen slowly sat down, spreading his hands in a somewhat commanding manner, reassuringly saying, Prince Xiao, rest assured, our Eastern Flame Kingdom's Emperor has already agreed. Once this is resolved, all the people of Great Flame will move to Eastern Flame and live in peace and prosperity. Xiao Tian smiled with a hint of mockery. Sounds interesting. So, you're actually a person who cares for the people? Lu Outyen took it seriously. It's just a matter of different standpoints. I had no choice. I can only try to ensure the survival of the people of Great Flame, while also protecting the interests of the Eastern Flame Kingdom. Xiao Tian thought for a moment. You really are ruthless. No matter whether I take action or not, you'll end up dead either way. Is it worth it? Lu Outyen wore a face that was ready to die. For the people of Eastern Flame, of course it's worth it. Upon hearing this, Xiao Tian suddenly felt somewhat annoyed. I can respect you, but that doesn't prevent me from wanting to kill you. You dare to use the Welfare Institute to threaten me? If I weren't afraid of causing a disaster by making a move, I would beat you and your son until even your mother wouldn't recognize you. At this moment, Xiao Tian suddenly thought of a question. By the way, how did you discover my true identity? I should have covered my tracks well, whether it was cleaning the scene or dealing with witnesses. Even the astute Empress didn't notice. So how did you, a fool, manage to? Hearing this question, Lu Outyen's face brimmed with confidence. He chuckled smugly. Zeroyan doesn't know, but there is a world called the body cultivation realm in the lower realms. There, the spiritual energy is thin, resources are scarce, and cultivators don't have realms. They can only rely on lightning to temper their body bodies, achieving sanctification of the flesh. The price is that they cannot break through above the 10th level. If my guess is correct, you should have been summoned by Her Majesty from such a body cultivation realm. Xiao Tian was confused upon hearing this. Lu Outyin continued speaking to himself. Now the space here is weak, and the rules are chaotic. Your power can be fully utilized. Likewise, you often pretend to be listless, acting lazy, precisely to create the illusion of a supreme powerhouse who is physically drained. Xiao Tian pondered for a moment. So there's something called the body cultivation realm. If I didn't know that I came from another dimensional universe, I'd almost believe his nonsense. Just as Xiao Tian was about to say that there might be a misunderstanding, Lu Outyin interrupted him. People from the body cultivation realm, knowing they have no future, are quick to deny it. But Prince Xiao, don't you have even that much grace? He sighed as he continued. To others, you may appear as a brute with only strength and no future, but I highly respect your benevolence. Xiao Tian's face was filled with disbelief. Alright, if it makes you happy, let's say I'm a futureless waste, okay? While Xiao Tian was puzzled, Lu Outyin slowly explained the reason. Ever since Her Majesty the Empress summoned you, the King of Hell has appeared. Also, after the Blood Cloud Tower was destroyed, Zhongling has been acting like an obedient little mirror in front of you. It made me suspect. Later, Lu Yen started showing you immense respect, deepening my suspicions. Then, that ancient book's backlash had no effect on you, probably because of your strong physical body. When Zhong Yangming was abducted but later rescued by the King of Hell, why would the King of Hell do that? What if Zhong Yangming was the King of Hell's chef? Wouldn't that make sense? Everyone in the Imperial City knows about your relationship with Zhong Yangming. What confirmed my belief that you are the King of Hell was when you pinched my face on the street, and I couldn't dodge you. Therefore, you must be the King of Hell. Having said this excitedly, Lu Outyin watched as the surrounding trap void turbulence formation finally completed, sealing them both in. He looked at Xiao Tian and said, Xiao, King of Hell, though body cultivation has no future and is a dead end in this place, you, invincible at the 10th level, are terrifying. Eastern Flame Kingdom can't afford to lose. The greatest respect I can offer is to drag you down with my life. Lu Outyin stood up, the runes around him flickering with golden light. Prince Xiao, please don't think about killing me. Before we enter the spatial turbulence, your attacks will trigger the runes. Pointing at the children nearby, he added, for the sake of those kids, please refrain from acting rashly. Xiao Tian didn't respond, internally asking Puppy, what's the outcome? Puppy calculated the results. The risk of affecting the orphanage is 12%. The best choice right now is to hold off. Even if we're trapped in the spatial turbulence, there won't be any harm to you, and your presence can stabilize the space, reducing the damage to a minimum. Xiao Tian's mind churned. So, can I directly tear the space and throw him into the spatial rift? That won't work, Master. Doing so will still trigger the runes and affect the surroundings. Xiao Tian was somewhat puzzled. Why is that? Isn't that a bit excessive? Puppy paused before responding. It's because he's too weak. He can't withstand the impact of you tearing space. Xiao Tian immediately became angry and started cursing Lu Outyin. You waste of space. Lu Outyin was puzzled. Why is he suddenly calling me useless? What's the reason? Just then, Xiao Tian's eyes widened. He was thinking that he mustn't let Lu Outyin get hurt, but the situation took another turn. Turns out, his son Lu Shimei had just drawn his sword, attempting to backstab Lu Outyin, but in the next moment, blood splattered on the runes, and Lu Shimei's eyes widened. Lu Outyin had pierced his stomach with his bare hands, chuckling softly. Ah, my son, you're still too young. The knife in Lu Shimei's hand clanged to the ground. As he slowly fell down, the blood from his stomach seemed almost sentient, frantically converging toward the runes. It was then that Lu Outyin explained with a smile, the trap void turbulence rune formation requires a blood sacrifice. The moment you chose to conspire against your father, you became the perfect candidate. Meanwhile, the strange runes, after absorbing Lu Shimei's blood, began to emit a bizarre red glow, as if it was about to engulf everything. Already on the verge of eruption, the children nearby were not afraid, but rather, they were extremely worried about Xiao Tian. They yelled, Brother Xiao Tian, and rushed toward him. Xiao Tian snapped back from the shock of Lu Outyan's act of killing his own son. Seeing the children closing in, he hastily shouted, Don't come any closer. Are you all not listening? The children immediately stopped in their tracks. Lu Outyin shook his head mockingly. How touching, Prince. Just then, Lu Yan hurriedly arrived, trying to get closer, but was stopped by Xiao Tian's raised hand. Don't come any closer. Help me keep an eye on those children. Upon hearing this, Lu Yan focused his spiritual energy into a shield, blocking those children who still wanted to charge. Seeing this, Xiao Tian finally looked at Lu Outyin. You really are ruthless, Prime Minister. Lu Outyin looked self-assured. The astral pavilion is hiding its true intentions, and its backhand is unknown. The Holy Demon Sect has the support of the primordial demon kingdom. Compared to them, my Eastern Flame Kingdom has the least means. Speaking, Lu Outyin suddenly became serious. This generation's Emperor of Eastern Flame Kingdom is bent on militarization. The national fate is declining. The people are suffering. We urgently need the enhancement of national fate. For the Eastern Flame Kingdom, for the people of Eastern Flame, this is a necessary sacrifice. Saying this, Lu Outyin sighed. After all, if possible, who would willingly seek death? But he quickly reaffirmed his resolve. For Eastern Eastern Flame, my life is but a trivial sacrifice. As Lu Outyan's voice fell, the surroundings began to fill with countless bloody thunders. The entire space seemed as if it was collapsing. Above the sealed space where the two stood, a formidable force of space, like a tornado, caused the heavens and the earth to change color and the winds to rage. Lu Outyan spread his hands and told Xiao Tian, when the space collapses into spatial turbulence, the ruins will detonate. There, no civilians will be affected. King of Hell Xiao, I admire your courage, but I also know that you really want to kill me right now. Unfortunately, you can't do anything before we're caught in the turbulence. Xiao Tian looked at him calmly, but the children from the orphanage were crying, shouting to let the villain release brother Xiao. Upon seeing this, Xiao Tian shouted sternly at the children, "Don't cry. Have you forgotten what I told you? From now on, you can only rely on yourselves. You must learn to be strong." Hearing this, the children bit their lips, stubbornly holding back their tears. "We're good kids. We'll listen to brother Xiao." Seeing their adorable faces, Xiao Tian finally spoke. "Your brother Xiao is very strong. Don't worry about me. I'll have to take a little detour with this big villain for now. In the days when I can't watch over you, study hard, eat on time, dress warmly, and take good care of the dogs you've adopted. Understood?" The children, dressed in blue and white, all raised their hands and responded, "We understand." To boost their confidence, Xiao Tian deliberately put his hand to his ear. "I can't hear you. Say it again." The children, faces flushed, screamed out, "We understand." Xiao Tian burst into hearty laughter. "It's a deal then. Wait for my return." Accompanying Xiao Tian's laughter, the space suddenly collapsed and twisted, taking Lu Outyan and everything within the sealed space, instantly turning into a black dot and vanishing on the spot. Lu Yan stared intently at the space in front of her. The little girl beside her asked hesitantly, "Auntie Lu, will brother Xiao come back?" Lu Yan sighed softly, turned around and rubbed the little girl's head. "Don't worry, Prince will definitely come back. He can't bear to leave you adorable kids." As she said this, she even playfully pinched the girl's nose. Then she turned back to the spot where they had disappeared, mulling over in her heart, "Lu Outyan, your biggest mistake was using these children and civilians to blackmail the prince. You fool, you have no idea how terrifying the prince is. Eastern Flame Kingdom, ha, you're done for. Heaven and earth, no one can save you now." Meanwhile, in the chaotic area at the edge of the Void Realm, a streak of light suddenly tore through the space, falling into what appeared to be a mysterious location. Moments later, Lu Outyan landed on the ground with a thud, and Xiao Tian was sitting on his lower back. Lu Outyan looked puzzled. "We're actually not dead." Xiao Tian looked around, clearly displeased. "What's going on here? It's so dirty. Who's been littering here? Absolutely no manners. But then, why do these pieces of trash look so familiar?" System Puppy awkwardly chimed in, "Master, it seems that the trash you usually throw away when tearing open space for convenience is all here." Xiao Tian took another close look. "Is this really stuff I've thrown away?" Puppy initiated a system analysis and said, "Based on the knowledge from ancient divine tribe scriptures, this appears to be a targeted setting for the southern wilderness realm. Any spatial tearing and traversal that occurs in the southern wilderness realm will be transferred here. This setting might be related to your father-in-law, esteemed Purple Emperor." Xiao Tian immediately understood. "So you're saying, the Great Flame Dynasty is covered by a special realm barrier. To get in, one must pass through a special channel and seal their cultivation. Those who are more powerful and try to tear through space to get in will be forcibly transferred here. That's why whenever I tear through space to discard trash, the trash ends up here." At this moment, Lu Outyan suddenly burst into laughter. "This is the Holy Dragon Relic from the Sea Clan. Ha! The Holy Dragon Relic really exists. Legend has it that in ancient times, mankind had 3 leaders. They were called Human Emperor, Human Sovereign, and Human Venerable. And this Sea Clan Holy Dragon lineage followed the command of the Human Emperor lineage. Unfortunately, that era fell, and we can't see the glory of mankind from that time. We can only see some past splendor from these ruins." Lu Outyan became a bit sentimental as he spoke. "It's a pity. The Holy Dragon Relic can't be opened without the bloodline of the Human Emperor. People like us, with ordinary human bloodlines, end up here, reduced to mere servants, toiling away to maintain these ruins, dying in this place." Suddenly, Lu Outyan turned to look at Xiao Tian. "But at least my plan was successful in the end. Without you as an extra variable, the agreement can continue to be implemented normally. I've successfully dragged you down with me, Prince Xiao." Just then, the door to the ruins was suddenly opened. A man who looked quite majestic led a man and a woman out and shouted, "This is the Holy Dragon Relic. Who dares to make a ruckus here?" When Lu Outyan saw the people on the stage, his face changed dramatically. "Bai Qinglian, it's actually you, and Li Yang and Li Chunhua from the Black Soul Hall. What are you 3 doing here?" Bai Qinglian covered her mouth and chuckled. "Lu Outyan, I never expected to see you here." Bai Qinglian wanted to say more, but was interrupted by Li Yang. "What's going on? Why did you interrupt me?" Bai Qinglian turned to scold the two, only to find their faces pale, trembling as they looked in a certain direction. Bai Qinglian followed their gaze. Xiao Tian excitedly waved at him and warmly greeted him. Bai Qinglian was so scared that his liver almost failed, as if he had seen a lifelong nightmare. After a moment of shock, the 3 turned and ran, wishing they had never come out in the first place. Xiao Tian's face turned cold. "You think you can run after seeing me?" The next second, Xiao Xiao Tian teleported, appearing directly in front of the gate, effectively blocking Bai Qinglian's way. Xiao Tian scratched his head, about to say something, when Bai Qinglian and the others were so scared they nearly fainted. In their disoriented state, the three instinctively stepped back, only to miss their footing, and tumbled down the stairs. Xiao Tian followed them at a leisurely pace, and slowly extended his hand in front of them. Pay up. You three still owe me 5 million spirit stones. Bai Qinglian and the others looked at each other, puzzled. 5 million? When did we owe you money? Seeing the three stay silent, Xiao Tian's face turned cold. You really forgot? The three shook their heads in bewilderment, looking as innocent as they could be. Xiao Tian stretched out his fingers. How could you forget? I thought surviving a near-death experience would have made you wiser. Let's see. Last time you kidnapped Zhou Yangming, I traveled far and wide, crossing mountains and rivers to save him. That's labor costs. I originally thought about letting you go and patiently advised you to be good. That's tuition for the life lesson. Then, after sending you into the space-time rift, I also helped transport your treasury. That's moving costs. Xiao Tian spread his hands. So, you see, don't you owe me 5 million spirit stones? On the side, Lu Outyan's eyes widened. You can actually tally it up like this? Is this a calculation that any normal person could make? And why did Bai Qinglian get scared into idiocy? Even if Xiao Tian is invincible at the same level, there's no need to be that afraid of him. How did they get through the space-time rift to come here? Just then, an angry shout echoed through the entire relic. Who dares to cause a commotion here? Lu Outyan quickly turned around, only to see the spiritual energy inside the relic suddenly converge, gradually forming a holy dragon illusion. The appearance of the holy dragon, its majestic dragon aura everywhere. Seeing this, Lu Outyan became suddenly emotional. This is the spirit of the holy dragon from the holy dragon relic. It is said that there is a spirit of the holy dragon in the holy dragon relic, formed from a dormant holy dragon. It really does exist. This trip was totally worth it. Meanwhile, Xiao Tian was thinking, this thing really resembles the Dragon King in Dragon Ball. When it transforms into a person, I hope it isn't a dragon-headed human. As for Bai Qinglian and the others, they were winking and gesturing at the spirit of the holy dragon, seemingly telling him not to come out, but it was too late. A venerable elder appeared, with an imposing demeanor and dragon horns on his head. Unable to restrain his protective instincts, Bai Qinglian ran towards him, screaming at the top of her lungs, Lord Dragon Spirit, don't come here, run. Lu Outyan was dumbfounded. Run? Telling such a powerful being like the Dragon Spirit to run? Has he lost her mind? Sure enough, the Dragon Spirit angrily scolded Bai Qinglian. You lowly servant, dare to tell me to run? Kneel before me. With that, the Elder Dragon Spirit burst forth in his aura. A wave of dragon's might immediately radiated out. With a thud, Bai Qinglian and his companions immediately knelt down, but their expressions seemed somewhat off. At this moment, the Elder Dragon Spirit also suddenly knelt down, kneeling proudly without hesitation. This move left Xiao Tian completely bewildered. However, the Elder Dragon Spirit looked serious, with a face 3 parts innocent and 3 parts reverent. He simply knelt on the ground looking at Xiao Tian. The scene was awkward for a good while. Finally, after a long moment, Xiao Tian reacted and asked, Elder, why are you showing such great respect? The Elder looked confused. Didn't I use the power of my soul and dragon's might to make them kneel? Why am I kneeling here? Bai Qinglian and his companions covered their faces, mentally commenting, I knew it. Even if we came to the Holy Dragon Relic and became attendants to the Guardian Dragon Spirit, we can't escape the palm of Xiao Tian. Lu Outyan was also dumbfounded. What's going on here? Does the Guardian Dragon Spirit of the Holy Dragon Relic also have issues with mobility due to old age? The Elder hastily stood up and angrily shouted, I am Long Qiudao, the last appointed master of the Holy Dragon by the Human Emperor, a renowned dragon lord across multiple realms. How could I possibly be humiliated by a mere human like you? With that, Long Qiudao activated the Holy Dragon power throughout the relic. In an instant, there was a flash of lightning and rumbling of thunder. The winds and clouds surged. All of the Holy Dragon's power converged onto Long Qiudao. The next second, above Long Qiudao's head, a Holy Dragon's true form soared into the sky, looking down on Xiao Tian with a superior posture. In that moment, a sweeping dragon's might filled the entire relic. Bai Qinglian and his companions, as dragon servants, were just trembling with fear. But Lu Outyan knelt on the ground and spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. At this moment, Long Qiudao emitted a dazzling, radiant light, his expression solemn, floating high above, in front of the illusory form of the Holy Dragon. Lu Outyan glanced again at Xiao Tian, who was indifferent. This dragon lord of the Holy Dragon Relic can't be real, right? Otherwise, why would Xiao Tian be unscathed? However, Xiao Tian is also unlucky enough to be misdirected in anger because the Elder accidentally knelt due to his own infirmity. At that moment, Long Qiudao suddenly spoke with a dignified face. Now, kneel before me. Before he could finish, the entire relic space suddenly started to shake violently. A much more dazzling golden light burst forth from behind Xiao Tian. This feeling, Long Qiudao was completely stunned. How is this possible? This is actually the legendary primordial dragon god. And at this moment, behind Xiao Tian, there were actually 9 divine dragon illusions. One of them slowly opened its eyes, seemingly somewhat disdainful. The next second, a dragon's breath was exhaled toward Long Qiudao. Xiaodao. In an instant, the holy dragon illusion behind Long Xiaodao was shattered, and he himself fell to the ground with a plop. His eyes widened in confusion. How could this be? The blessing once granted to me by the human emperor has been completely erased. How could such a terrifying real dragon illusion appear behind this young man? Luo Yin also stared at Xiao Tian for a long time. What was that behind him just now? Do the dragons of the sea clan look like that? Comparing them, the one behind that elder was like a mudfish. A moment later, Long Xiaodao finally spoke in alarm. Who exactly are you? Xiao Tian patted his chest. Although I'm just an ordinary person, even though I don't know what just happened, the feeling of being protected feels so good. I don't even have to lift a finger, and the opponent is already kneeling and conquered. Long Xiaodao had no idea what Xiao Tian was thinking, staring blankly at him. After a long while, Long Xiaodao couldn't help but burst into tears. Am I not pathetic? People are just chatting. A little noise shouldn't matter. Why did I have to show off my authority? Bai Qinglian told me to run. Why didn't I? Wait, why didn't Bai Qinglian explain things to me clearly? Just telling me to run without details. Of course I wouldn't. Thinking of this, Long Xiaodao pointed at the trembling trio. It's all your fault. Screaming and disturbing this distinguished person. Even meddling and sowing discord in front of us. You are truly disposable trash. With that said, Long Xiaodao suddenly raised his hand, directing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to strike the three. Bai Qinglian's eyes widened, unable to hold back an angry curse. But before he could finish speaking, he was blasted into pieces, with no hope of surviving. After doing all this, Long Xiaodao turned to face Xiao Tian and bowed. Lowly Long Xiaodao greets this distinguished person. Are you satisfied with the small assistance I provided earlier? Who knew Xiao Tian would suddenly clench his fists and shout, why did you kill those three? Long Xiaodao felt a shiver run through him, thinking to himself that this was bad. Could it be that this Xiao Tian doesn't like killing? The next second, Xiao Tian grabbed him by the neck and scolded. They still owe me 5 million spirit stones. At this moment, faced with Xiao Tian's questioning, Long Xiaodao was incredibly shocked, but didn't know what to say. Just a few spirit stones. Does this distinguished person really care so much? Seeing him silent, Xiao Tian continued to question. You said it was noisy at the entrance, and you're the guardian spirit of this place, so you must have heard our conversation. If you were really looking out for me, why didn't you wait for me to get back the 5 million spirit stones before killing them? Long Xiaodao completely ran out of excuses. Xiao Tian became even more certain. So that's how it is. You learned some information about me from those three, so you were scheming against me in secret. As the saying goes, the older, the craftier. When you were speaking earlier, I observed your expression, your eyes darting left and right. Perhaps in that moment, you already had countless tricks and schemes. Had I not reacted quickly, I would have fallen into an irredeemable trap. Saying this, Xiao Tian suddenly gathered energy in his hand, reaching out to grab Long Xiaodao in front of him. But unexpectedly, he grabbed at thin air. Long Xiaodao immediately burst into laughter. Ha! You can't touch me. Just then, Puppy suddenly sent a message in Xiao Tian's mind. Master, he is in a soul form. A direct attack cannot touch him. You also cannot actively mobilize soul power now. I suggest that you shatter the space. Utilize spatial turbulence to wash him away. Xiao Tian gave a slight smile. This is easy to do. Saying this, Xiao Tian suddenly clenched his fist. Immediately a shattering noise was heard. Luo Yin, who was quietly observing from the side, sucked in a cold breath, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. What just happened? Was I seeing things? Did Xiao Tian just crush the space in his palm? While Xiao Tian stared at the smug Long Xiaodao in front of him. Do you think if I can't touch you, that I have no options? Long Xiaodao's smile didn't fade. It's useless. Since you don't know how to use soul power, how could you possibly kill me in this state with just your fists? Just then, Xiao Tian's figure seemed to vanish from the spot in an instant. Long Xiaodao inexplicably started to feel a bit nervous, only to see that Xiao Tian had already stood in front of him, muttering softly, power control. 1/10,000th. A surge of wild power immediately concentrated in his palm. But Long Xiaodao was confused. What do you mean? Control the power to 1/10,000th? Are you joking? How much strength could 1/10,000th have? Enough to beat an earthworm? The next second, an earth-shattering power erupted, enveloping both of them, and with one punch from Xiao Tian, the space started to emit a cracking noise. Ferocious spatial turbulence burst out instantly, starting to violently wash away through the shattered space. Long Xiaodao wanted to escape, but it was already too late. He could only grit his teeth and ask, how is this possible? You didn't even use spiritual energy. How could you shatter space with one punch? This is holy dragon relic space, extremely durable. And you idiot, you will also be washed away by the spatial turbulence. Is it worth it to risk your own life to kill me? As he said this, Long Xiaodao suddenly stopped. At this moment, Xiao Tian, who was also standing in the spatial turbulence, seemed to be enveloped by some strange force field, leaving his robe completely intact. Xiao Tian crossed his arms and looked at the spatial turbulence. This is really slow. Let me help speed it up. Saying this, Xiao Tian pointed again. The collapsing space suddenly became even more unstable, even more violent, and the spatial turbulence also grew more fierce. Long Xiaodao's rate of being obliterated was also accelerating, seemingly having accepted his fate. He had one final question. Who are you? Xiao Tian tilted his head and thought, you're asking who I am? The next second, Xiao Tian suddenly showed a bright smile. I won't tell you, for someone as bad as you should die in ignorance. Letting Wang Qiudao die in spatial turbulence with a face like he'd swallowed 3 pounds of flies. Lu Outyin, who was off to the side and had witnessed everything, saw Xiao Tian casually close up the shattered space with a pull. Tears flowed down Lu Outyin's face. Heh, I am really stupid. Why did I provoke something like this? At this moment, Lu Yan, who had seen Xiao Tian be swept into the temporal turbulence, knelt in front of Ziruan with a face full of sorrow. Zhong Li Suang, who stood by her side, looked worried. Would the Empress do something foolish? Demon Clan Empress Luo Fengyuan clenched her fist, cursing Lu Outyin through gritted teeth. That scum from the Eastern Flame Kingdom. I should have killed him when I had the chance. At this moment, the Empress suddenly stepped forward to help Lu Yan up. The blame is not on you, and I am pleased. Lord Zhao's choice just proves that I have chosen wisely. Lu Yan looked at Ziruan, wanting to say something, but was interrupted by Ziruan. Through the slave ring of the summoning charm, I can't sense his location, but at least he's still alive. Perhaps some accident involving the spatial turbulence has given him a glimmer of hope. Luo Fengyuan also nodded. Indeed, maybe the spatial turbulence didn't tear him apart, but instead took him to another safe place. Zhong Li Suang suddenly thought of something. What on earth is Lu Outyin thinking? Why did he suddenly attack Xiao Tian? Ziruan calmly but astonishingly said, perhaps he discovered that Lord Xiao is the king of hell. Upon hearing this, Zhong Yangming's Hong Ling and Lu Yan almost simultaneously widened their eyes, staring directly at Ziruan. What's going on? How did your majesty know? Only Zhong Li Suang seemed to be tremendously shocked, exclaiming incredulously, King of hell? Luo Fengyuan furrowed her brows, looking puzzledly at Ziruan. Is Xiao brother that king of hell? His strength does seem very impressive, but he indeed lacks a realm. If my guess is correct, Lord Xiao likely comes from the body cultivation realm world. Can't you guess this? Isn't it very obvious? Luo Fengyuan was completely baffled. Her mind just couldn't wrap around it. Ah, is it that obvious? Ziruan silently looked at her. Indeed, you've exchanged your brains for your size. Luo Fengyuan recalled the moment on Green Flame Mountain when Xiao Tian tore apart the ancient formation with his bare hands. So it's the body cultivation realm world. If you hadn't said it, I would have almost forgotten. No wonder Xiao brother has no realm, yet his physical body is so strong. Lu Yan at the side swallowed. Your majesty. You. Ziruan interrupted her again. Why am I not surprised? That's because Lord Xiao is such a fool. His flaw is too big. When you, this young lady, started to obey him, I knew something was off with your character. If Lord Xiao had no capabilities, how would you willingly follow him? Zhong Ling could only awkwardly chuckle at the side. Also, the subsequent events were too coincidental, especially after the destruction of the Black Soul Hall. The message we found in the valley, that suggestion was from Uncle Zhong, right? Zhong Yangming quickly responded, Your Majesty is wise. Indeed, it was my suggestion. Lastly, Ziruan summed up, that message from King of Hell is harmless to Great Flame. If the other party were an enemy plotting against Great Flame, this action would be unnecessary. But if King of Hell is Lord Xiao, everything makes sense. Zhong Ling still couldn't figure it out. But Your Majesty, if you knew all along that the prince was so formidable, why did you pretend not to know? Ziruan looked at her gently and explained slowly, the stories my mother told me mention that people in the body cultivation realm world are always fighting due to their environment and limited resources. Lord Xiao must be tired of the killings. That's why he assumed the lazy posture of a prince. So I nurtured him to be that idle prince. Even if I knew he was willing to help me with my troubles, I would still pretend not to know. It's good to be a little confused sometimes, living in happiness and dreams, and waking up from a perfect nap to cheer and celebrate. What exactly did he go through to treasure a normal nap so much? As she said this, a hint of heartache showed in Ziruan's eyes. Finally understanding, Luo Fengyuan chimed in. If Brother Xiao is of this body cultivation type, then he is a 10th level unbeatable figure. In the special area of the Great Flame Dynasty, he's simply against the heavens. No wonder Lu Outyin wanted to take him away. This also implies one thing. At the very least, the Eastern Flame Kingdom is making its move, so they're eliminating the biggest threat in advance. It looks like a fierce battle is inevitable. The golden pupils of Luo Fengyuan suddenly ignited with fighting spirit, only to be dumbfounded by a sentence from Ziruan. Why is it that your brain lights up all at once when it comes to fighting? At this, the corner of Luo Fengyuan's mouth twitched. She glared at Ziruan and yelled, I've been putting up with you for a long time for Brother Zhao's sake. Can you stop bringing up brains? Ziruan also refused to back down. Did I say something wrong? Sometimes I really think you should change your title. Don't call yourself the Holy Demon Empress. Call yourself the Holy Demon Dumb Emperor instead. Suddenly, Luo Fengyuan straightened her back, showing off her grandeur. You arrogant woman. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. You're just jealous of me. I think you should also change your name from Great Flame Empress to Little Empress. Ziruan seemed to have hit a sore spot, gritting her teeth, the veins on her forehead bulging. What are you so smug about? Lord Xiao doesn't even like it. Luo Fengyuan nonchalantly curled her lip. If a female hooligan like you can like it, not to mention Brother Xiao. The two women stared each other down. Others standing nearby could feel the collision of their wills, and couldn't help but murmur, here we go again. How many times has this been? Tian, Lord Prince, please come back soon. This family will fall apart without you. Just then, another round of the Battle of the Two Empresses came to an end, with Luo Fengyuan emerging as the winner. Ziruoyan could only praise, well fought. When we go back, I will give you an extra 3 small governance lessons as a reward. However, Luo Fengyuan sensed something was amiss during the fight. Your aura is becoming more mature. The National Seal Jade Stamp may soon be able to successfully condense the national fate. Ziruoyan gently nodded. I know, I can feel it. Saying this, she took out the National Seal Jade Stamp from her storage ring. At this moment, the National Seal Jade Stamp began to emit bursts of golden light. Luo Fengyuan stared at the reaction of the National Seal Jade Stamp. Looking at this, it should be complete within a month. That will be the time for Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion to make their move. Upon hearing this, Ziruoyan looked solemn. She put away the National Seal Jade Stamp and began to give orders. Minister Zhong, effective today, you will replace Lu Outyan's position as the Great Flame Prime Minister. Deal with all the ministers from Lu Outyan's faction and replace them with people we've prepared in advance. The intelligence department should immediately start monitoring everything around us. We must know of any movements. The Great Flame Dynasty is entering a state of war. I will personally serve as the Grand Marshal with General Zhong as my deputy to deal with the imminent threats. Upon hearing Ziruoyan's command, both Zhong Yanming and his spouse Zhong Lishuang nodded in unison. As you command, Your Majesty. Luo Fengyuan then looked at Ziruoyan. My primordial demon kingdom is currently under watch, so we can't mobilize external reinforcements. It's only me and my 3 personal guards. If it really comes to war, will you be afraid? Ziruoyan, however, smiled, her face full of determination. Joke, I will not be afraid. I will definitely protect the Great Flame Dynasty, not just safeguarding the foundation left by my father, or preserving the empire for which my 2 elder brothers sacrificed, but also for the people of the Great Flame. Even if it's a false empire, it's still my Great Flame. It's still home. Once home is secure, I can then safely go find Lord Xiao and bring him back. No matter where he is, I will bring him home. Luo Fengyuan locked eyes with her. Don't worry, I will be with you, and we will definitely bring Lord Xiao back. However, at this moment, within the Holy Dragon Relic in the space-time rift, Lu Outyan, who was in front of Xiao Tian, was kneeling on the ground, trembling and covered in cold sweat. Xiao Tian looked speechless. I'm just asking you how to get to Eastern Flame Kingdom. Why are you trembling? Lu Outyan swallowed, lifting his shaky head. Lord Prince, what are you planning to do in the Eastern Flame Kingdom? Xiao Tian smiled. Don't be afraid. I'm a very kind and reasonable person. Saying this, Xiao Tian was about to help him up, but the next second, Xiao Tian suddenly pulled, tearing off a piece of Lu Outyan's clothes, then used it like a rag to wipe Lu Outyan's sweat. Look at you, scaring yourself and sweating so much. Lu Outyan was stunned. He dared not move, dared not speak, just afraid. A moment later, Xiao Tian carelessly tossed the torn cloth aside and explained. Actually, when you first threatened me, I was a bit angry, but after thinking about it, you were doing all this for the people of Eastern Flame Kingdom to live a better life. We're just on opposite sides. There's no right or wrong, so I was wondering, could there be a more peaceful way that wouldn't result in more deaths to solve the current dilemma? As he spoke, Xiao Tian suddenly leaned in mysteriously. Just now, I thought of a brilliant idea. Guess what it is? Lu Outyan shook his head in a daze. I can't guess. Upon hearing this, Xiao Tian suddenly burst into triumphant laughter. Ha, such a brilliant plan. I knew you wouldn't be able to guess. What if I go to Eastern Flame Kingdom and kill your Empress? Wouldn't that solve everything? Upon hearing this, Lu Outyan looked at Xiao Tian in utter shock, thinking furiously, what the hell? Say that again? I definitely, never mind, I can't beat him. Seeing that Lu Outyan remained silent for a long time, Xiao Tian grinned smugly. Look at you, so stunned that you can't even speak. A bewildered Lu Outyan asked, what's so brilliant about this? Seeing his reaction, Xiao Tian frowned. Seriously, you're so smart. Can't you figure it out? Think about it. You're doing all this so people can live better lives, right? Upon seeing Lu Outyan nod seriously, Xiao Tian continued. So, what if I kill the Emperor of your Eastern Flame Kingdom and let Ziruoyan take her place? Wouldn't the people of the Eastern Flame Kingdom immediately benefit from the legitimate national fate and prosper? People from the Southern Wilderness Realm's Great Flame Dynasty could also move there and continue to live well. Doesn't that sound great? Listening to this, Lu Outyan felt confused. Although it seemed to make sense, wouldn't that mean the end of Eastern Flame Kingdom? You're thinking too small. Xiao Tian shook his head, pointing at his own brain. Names are just labels. If you're so attached to that, why not give the Great Flame Dynasty a nickname like Eastern Flame later on? You seem like a broad-minded, ambitious person. Can't you understand this simple logic? The decline of Eastern Flame Kingdom's national fate shows that your emperor is a tyrant. Killing a tyrant benefits millions, and all you have to do is tell me how to get to the Eastern Flame Kingdom. You'd be making a monumental contribution and leave your name in history. Having said that, Xiao Tian gave him a hefty pat on the shoulder. For Eastern Flame, for the people. Listening to Xiao Tian's persuasive words, Lu Outyan's eyes gradually lit up. Thinking carefully, he realized he's right. With this thought, Lu Outyan declared with a determined face, yes, everything is for Eastern Flame, for the people. Lu Outyan immediately detailed the methods and specific routes to reach the Eastern Flame Kingdom. As Xiao Tian nodded and had Puppy record the information. After Puppy gave him a slight nod, Xiao Tian smiled satisfactorily. The next second, he abruptly reached out, grabbing Lu Outyin by the neck and lifting him up. Only then did Lu Outyin snap back to reality, cursing inwardly. What the hell was I thinking? Why did I ever believe that lying bastard Xiao Tian made any sense? But why did he suddenly attack? Seeming to sense Lu Outyin's confusion, Xiao Tian spoke with a cold face. Throughout history, those who have left a strong mark are usually the deceased. You're too cowardly to die, so let me help you. Look how kind I am. Even after you threaten me with innocent lives, I'm still helping you secure a place in history. I really must have the heart of a saint. Looking at Xiao Tian's beaming face, Lu Outyin was so angry he was shaking all over, mumbling something incoherently. Seeing this, Xiao Tian placed his index finger on his lips. No need to speak. I know you're grateful. Keep it in your heart. I understand you. Xiao Tian's smile was so innocent that Lu Outyin's eyes widened, as if resentful, but it was all over. With a snapping sound, Xiao Tian released his grip, letting the lifeless Lu Outyin fall to the ground. After doing all this, Xiao Tian looked at his corpse and suddenly thought, wouldn't it be too inhumane to leave his body out in the open like this? Fine, let's be a good person to the end. With that thought, golden light shone from the tips of Xiao Tian's fingers. He then clenched his fist tightly, and under the force, Lu Outyin's body disintegrated into dust. After completing this, Xiao Tian took a deep breath. Another day of doing a good deed. Puppy, start the navigation. Let's go to Eastern Flame Kingdom, see if we can have a talk. However, Puppy explained, Master, the information provided by Lu Outyin is a method to go to the Eastern Flame Kingdom from the Southern Wilderness Realm. Currently, we are within the Holy Dragon Relic and do not have a way to get to the Eastern Flame Kingdom. As of now, our location here is still uncertain. Looking at Puppy's somewhat apologetic face, Xiao Tian's expression stiffened instantly. Damn it, I was fully prepared and about to set off, and now you're telling me we can't go, that we're lost? This is infuriating. Xiao Tian stomped on the ground in frustration, causing the entire Holy Dragon Relic to tremble. Just then, a familiar voice resounded. Master Xiao, please be gentler. If you use any more force, you might shatter the Holy Dragon Relic and get lost in the spatial turbulence. Xiao Tian's face turned cold, recognizing the voice as Long Chiodao's. However, he looked around and couldn't see him anywhere. Strange, I clearly cleaned him out using spatial turbulence. Is he still alive? Never mind if he's dead or alive. It's his fault for playing tricks. With that, Xiao Tian clenched his fist and began to unleash his power, mumbling to himself, you wanna play tricks? I'll just smash this relic to pieces. Let's see if you can continue your charade then. Hearing this, Long Chiodao's voice started to sound somewhat panicked. Master Xiao, you misunderstand. Although I am Long Chiodao, I am not the one you encountered earlier. Please, don't destroy this relic. I can sense the aura of the old human emperor in you. You must have a close relationship with the human emperor's descendant. If you bring people here next time, you could gain the treasures of this holy dragon relic. Xiao Tian paused and quickly stopped his actions. The old human emperor's descendant he's talking about, could it be Ziruan? If that's the case, then this holy dragon relic is technically my wife's property, which means it's my money. I really shouldn't destroy it. With that thought, Xiao Tian shouted into the surroundings, if that's the case, why don't you show yourself? I'm a reasonable person who keeps his word. Just come out. I won't do anything to you. Meanwhile, within the holy dragon relic, an elderly man shackled by black fog and chains was contemplating. He had seen clearly what had just happened outside. Does this young man named Xiao Tian really keep his word? He sort of does, but not much. Killing people with his own logic. Is that keeping his word? It seems like it. That guy might have made it into history, but now he's gone. At this point, it's not about whether I dare to go to Xiao Tian. I can't even if I want to. Thinking about this, the elder explained, Master Xiao, I am currently restricted in my movements and sealed within the inner sanctum of the holy dragon relic. I really can't come to see you personally. Xiao Tian was still somewhat puzzled. What do you mean? Weren't you just? The elder hurriedly explained. The one who died earlier was my corpse heart demon. I have a way to leave, but I never told him. You have a way out? Yes, Master. If I weren't sealed, I could certainly help you leave. But as it stands, I'm sealed within the inner sanctum and can't assist you. Hearing this, Xiao Tian didn't say much and directly walked towards the main door. The elder quickly tried to stop him. Master, don't be rash. If you try to break in forcefully to lift my seal, the holy dragon relic will self-destruct. But Xiao Tian didn't take any of it seriously. No worries. Your so-called rules here don't apply to me. Puppy said from the beginning that I can ignore any rules or laws. I have the ability to suppress any lineage or constitution. At this moment, Xiao Tian had already pushed open the doors of the holy dragon relic and entered its antechamber. Yet, looking at the narrow corridor and a handful of rooms, Xiao Tian couldn't help but sneer. Such a small place. Does it even need servants to maintain it? But when he pushed open another door, Xiao Tian's eyes brightened. He couldn't help but murmur in awe. No wonder it needs maintaining. This place is truly a hidden universe. This wasn't any chamber. It was a vast landscape of mountains and rivers. Countless cranes were soaring above the clouds, and a continuous mountain range in the distance extended extended like a sleeping dragon. Xiao Tian thought to himself, this mountain range looks familiar. It resembles Green Flame Mountain. Perhaps this is what Long Qiudao referred to as his abandoned body. It looks like a grand hall from the outside, but inside, it's a world of its own. Is this the inner sanctum of the Holy Dragon Relic? It even seems a bit larger than the territory of the Great Flame Dynasty. At this moment, Puppy suddenly pointed to a distant mountain peak. Master, according to my analysis, that mountain is the core of the entire Holy Dragon Relic's formation. This chamber must be the true location of the inner sanctum. Xiao Tian smiled slightly. Let's go. Saying this, he started to float slightly, then instantly vanished. The next second, he was already standing in front of the door to the inner sanctum. However, within the inner sanctum, the bound Long Qiudao looked horrified. He stammered at Xiao Tian, Master Xiao, please, don't act rashly, calm down. Seeing Xiao Tian unmoved and reaching out to push the door, Long Qiudao internally thought he was doomed. Although this man is extraordinary and doesn't fear the Emperor's rules of the human emperor, the self-preservation mechanism of the Holy Dragon Relic will detonate once triggered. What's the point of my guarding this relic then? To his surprise, the next moment, a dull sound of a door opening echoed. Long Qiudao, who had been sealed for countless years, found the area in front of him suddenly illuminated. He had lost track of how long it had been since he'd seen light. Although he had been chanting to himself that he was doomed, the rules of the human emperor were still in effect. The emperor's will, shining with a golden light, continued to roam through the chamber like a fish in water. Long Qiudao was astonished to find that the will of the human emperor did not reject Xiao Tian at all. Although Xiao Tian was not a descendant of the human emperor, he walked in as if the place was deserted, even occasionally commenting, this inner sanctum looks quite plain and ordinary. Puppy informed him, Master, according to ancient records of the God Clan, although this inner sanctum looks simple in style, it's actually priceless. Xiao Tian paused. Is that so? It seems like this so-called human emperor is pretty practical. At this moment, Long Qiudao couldn't care less about style. He just wanted to know why. Wasn't Xiao Tian an intruder? Why wasn't he rejected by the emperor's rules? Could it be that the rules had lost their effect due to age? It doesn't make sense. Corpse Heart Demon trapped me here solely based on the emperor's rules. Then, Xiao Tian walked up to Long Qiudao. Compared to that Corpse Heart Demon, the person in front of him felt like the real deal. Only then did it have enough gravitas. Long Qiudao felt immense pressure facing Xiao Tian, even more than when he had faced the human emperor himself. After a moment, Xiao Tian suddenly spoke. If I let you out, can you help me leave this place? Long Qiudao quickly responded. If I'm freed, Master Xiao, I can indeed help you leave. My word is my bond. As he spoke, Xiao Tian gripped the chains in his palm. Just as Long Qiudao was about to instruct him on what to do, Xiao Tian exerted force and shattered the chains. Long Qiudao's eyes rolled back in fear. Master Xiao, doing this will kill me. Sure enough, the surrounding golden energy that swam like fish suddenly converged onto Long Qiudao, transforming into a golden dragon. It bared its fangs as if it was about to tear into Long Qiudao. Long Qiudao had no intention of resisting and could only think to himself, it's over, it's over. The emperor's rules are backfiring. My life is over. He even resignedly closed his eyes, quietly awaiting death. The next second, Xiao Tian suddenly slapped out, and the golden dragon was immediately turned into a pool of gold liquid. Xiao Tian disdainfully spoke. What is this nonsense? The shattered spirit of the rule, however, reformed behind Xiao Tian, turning into a giant golden fish, and fiercely lunged at him. Startled, Long Qiudao quickly cried out, Master, watch your back. Xiao Tian didn't even turn his head. He just backhandedly grabbed the fin of the big fish. Even the fish was stunned at this point. The next second, Xiao Tian's aura turned terrifying, and the air itself seemed to become ominously chilling. In a cold voice, Xiao Tian interrogated, I let you off earlier, and now you dare to act defiantly? Suddenly, Xiao Tian seemed to think of something. Wait, can this thing be eaten? The fish seemed scared, and Long Qiudao also seemed to have heard something outrageous. Frightened, he hurriedly explained, Master Xiao, don't be impulsive. This is a spirit formed by the ancient human emperor's rules. Eating it would be such a waste. Xiao Tian, however, didn't care at all. Thinking about the red-cooked carp that Zhong Yanming made, he muttered uncontrollably, whether it's a waste or not is irrelevant. I mainly want to taste it. The big fish internally wailed, help, this person is insane. At that moment, Long Qiudao seemed to think of something. Master Xiao, may I ask if there are any descendants of the human emperor by your side? This rule spirit has significant benefits for the descendants of the human emperor. Xiao Tian thought carefully. As for descendants of the human emperor, Zi Ruoyan should be one. However, she is currently in the Great Flame Dynasty and has run into some issues. It involves the Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion, who have created a false empire to seize her destiny. Listening to this, Long Qiudao looked furious. She is a descendant of the human emperor. Her bloodline must be extremely pure. What is this false empire? Eastern Flame Kingdom, Astral Pavilion. They are all beasts. The original human emperor's Z lineage shed blood and sacrificed greatly for the human race. How dare they do this? They deserve to die. Observing Long Qiudao, who now seemed completely different from before, Xiao Tian thought, compared to that Corpse Heart Demon, this guy is pretty righteous. Even his demeanor has changed. Xiao Tian Tian has always liked positive people, so he comforted, "Don't worry, Mr. Old Dragon, don't get so worked up." Long Qiudao softly corrected him, "Master Xiao, my last name is not Dragon. We, of the Holy Dragon lineage, are surnamed Dragon Mound." Hearing this, Xiao Tian immediately hugged him around the neck. "So, Mr. Dragon Mound, this rule spirit is greatly beneficial to Ziruan." Long Qiudao continued to explain, "The ancient human emperor originally formed these rules in the Holy Dragon relic, solidifying them with his dragon aura for protection. If a descendant of the human emperor comes in contact with this rule spirit, their supreme imperial physique will gradually awaken. They can inherit the true legacy of the ancient human emperor. What you have in your hand is this rule spirit." Hearing this, Xiao Tian still didn't plan to let go of the big fish. If the benefits are this significant, then would it matter if I take a bite? At this, Long Qiudao was left speechless. "You really have to take that bite, don't you?" Xiao Tian was already drooling at the thought. After all, this is a golden fish that can transform into a dragon, created from some sort of rule. The taste must be extraordinary, right? Just one bite, a tiny one, shouldn't have much of an impact. Even if Ziruan finds out, she won't blame me. Just then, the big fish suddenly spoke. "Daddy, please show mercy." Xiao Tian was stunned and looked around, not finding who was speaking. Long Qiudao, however, looked at the big fish with a shocked expression. "You've not only become sentient, but also gained intelligence." Xiao Tian pointed at the big fish and asked Long Qiudao, "You're talking about this fish?" Long Qiudao nodded. "Yes, Master Xiao, I am indeed talking about it." He continued to ask the big fish, "Since you've gained intelligence, freeing me should have been a piece of cake. Wait, if you're so intelligent, how did you get deceived by Corpse Heart Demon and end up trapping me here?" The big fish was sweating profusely but spoke the truth. "Well, I was bored. It's so boring here, so I just..." Hearing this, Long Qiudao felt his heart skip a beat. "What kind of reason is that? You hung me here for over 100 years just because you were bored and in such an embarrassing position." A moment later, a calmer Long Qiudao told Xiao Tian, "Master Xiao, with a great being like you around, the human emperor's descendant probably won't miss this rule spirit much. I'm a decent cook, so may I ask, Master Xiao, should this chubby-headed fish be steamed or braised?" With a broad smile, Xiao Tian thought, "This old man lives up to his name, quite agreeable." So he suggested, "Why not cut it in half? One half can be braised and the other half steamed. How about chopping the head off and preparing it separately with chopped peppers?" Long Qiudao immediately gave a thumbs up. "Master Xiao, that's an excellent idea." The big fish trembled with fear and couldn't help but complain internally, "I may not be human, but you guys are truly savage. Can humans even say such things?" The next second, the big fish started to shake violently, emitting golden light from its body. Xiao Tian looked at it in surprise. "What's going on here?" The next second, the big fish transformed into a cute, adorable little girl in Xiao Tian's hands. The little girl looked up with tearful eyes and trembled as she spoke. "Daddy, can you bear to eat little Ewer when I'm so cute?" Seeing this, Long Qiudao was furious. This creature can transform? It must have had sentience for at least 1,000 years. No wonder there have been so many incidents over the past millennium. It was you causing all the trouble. The girl had no choice but to explain, "I've been awake for a short time, and there was no one to play with me. Please have pity on me." Little Ewer knows she was wrong. Xiao Tian wasn't really listening to their conversation, just feeling regretful inside. "She turned into a human? That's really troublesome. Now I've lost all my appetite." In the end, Xiao Tian reluctantly put the girl down and sighed, "Don't go around claiming people as your father." However, the little girl held her hands tightly together and looked up at Xiao Tian with innocent, wide eyes. "But I want you to be my daddy. I'm an orphan, alone and miserable." Xiao Tian crossed his arms. "Then why did you attack me earlier?" The girl hurriedly explained, "That was just my instinct. I am the imperial dragon energy of the old human emperor that gained sentience. My consciousness was still dormant before. But you're so powerful. Daddy, you even erased the will of the old human emperor. Now I don't have to be bound here and can be free. But I'm also afraid that someone will snatch me away. So, won't you be my daddy?" As she spoke, the girl clung to Xiao Tian's leg, then lifted her head and looked up at him with a pitiful expression. "Just like this Dragon Mound elder said, I can be of great help to Mother. I can become the artifact spirit of the national seal jade stamp." Hearing this, Xiao Tian felt a moment of contemplation. "She's just like me, an orphan, alone and miserable, and she could be helpful to Ziruan." Seeing his hesitation, the girl quickly continued her plea, "Please be my daddy. Otherwise, every time I wake up, I'll be all alone in this dark room." Thinking back to his own childhood, dark rooms, loneliness, silence, all by himself in a confined space where traps could be triggered at any moment, Xiao Tian would never forget that feeling. With that in mind, he squatted down and gently patted her head. "All right, having one more daughter won't hurt." The little girl cheered excitedly, repeating, "I have a daddy now." But the next second, she suddenly kicked off the ground, hurling herself toward Long Qiudao with the force of certain rules. Caught off guard, Long Qiudao was hit squarely, almost vomiting up his last meal. Afterward, the girl pointed at Long Qiudao, who was kneeling on the ground and trembling with pain. "Daddy, he wanted to stew me and steam me. It's fair for me to bump into him a bit, right?" Xiao Tian was dumbfounded. "But he's an elder. You..." Before Xiao Tian could finish, the girl interrupted. Whether it's stewing or steaming, I could have died. I've already forgiven him for 90% of it. Isn't it reasonable to punish him a little for the remaining 10%? Xiao Tian scratched his head. Something feels weird and familiar here, but I can't quite place it. Where have I met someone this bratty before? Xiao Tian could only explain earnestly. Even though he wanted to cook you, you were in the wrong first. You set this up on him, didn't you? The girl pouted and pointed with her little finger. I did hang him up as a joke, but it was for his own protection. If I hadn't sealed him off, the corpse heart demon would have devoured his spirit charm long ago. He wouldn't even have had the chance to talk about stewing or steaming me. Little Yuer pointed at Long Qiudao, looking furious. Long Qiudao paused and thought carefully, realizing she was right. After the corpse heart demon had grown stronger and tried to seize him, he was protected by a seal, and now he knew it was all Little Yuer's doing to protect him. With this in mind, Long Qiudao collected himself and respectfully bowed to Little Yuer. I misunderstood you. Thank you. Little Yuer, however, turned her head and hummed. The next second, she ran towards Xiao Tian, hugging his leg and secretly delighted. Daddy feels so comfortable. His aura can even stabilize my will. Choosing him as a father was a win. Xiao Tian looked down at the little darling at his feet and suddenly smiled. Little Yuer, how about changing your name? Little Yuer looked up. Change it to what? Xiao Tian muttered the name Little Yuer and had a moment of inspiration. How about Xiao Yuer? The little girl in front of him was beyond excited and nodded heavily. From now on, I'm someone with a name. Afterwards, Xiao Tian looked into the distance. We should leave this place soon. 2 hours later, the trio were advancing through the void. Xiao Yuer floated at the height of Xiao Tian's shoulder while Long Qiudao carried a tray. Xiao Yuer would occasionally float over to grab a fruit, offering it to Xiao Tian. Daddy, eat the fruit. Obediently, Xiao Tian took a bite and savored it. Somehow, it tastes sweeter when you give it to me. Xiao Yuer, you should eat too. Saying so, he affectionately touched Xiao Yuer's face. Then, Xiao Tian looked into the distance. I didn't expect the holy dragon relic to look like this from the outside. The scenery is truly amazing. It would be even better if we hadn't gotten lost. Speaking of getting lost, Xiao Tian glanced at Long Qiudao, mumbling in dissatisfaction. You're pretty useless. They say an elder in the house is like a treasure. The only time you're useful now is for carrying trays and cooling things down. Xiao Yuer chimed in from the side. Exactly. Long Qiudao gave a wry smile. How could I know? It's only been a few hundred years, and I can't recognize where I am anymore. Xiao Tian looked around. Well, there's not much we can do right now. We can only search slowly, but we should hurry up. As he thought, Xiao Tian started to emanate power to test a new skill he had developed with the help of his daughter and a puppy called Biological Field. It allowed him to detect life forms around him. Immediately, Xiao Tian led the two and their island relic to rapidly dash toward a planet. He looked quite pleased. With my King of Hell strides, we should be able to find the way to the Eastern Flame Kingdom quickly. Eastern Flame Kingdom Emperor, even the King of Hell is after you now. You can't escape. Xiao Yuer held onto Xiao Tian's shoulder and yelled in awe. Daddy, you're so strong. Feeling the space around them collapsing wildly, Long Qiudao thought to himself, I've underestimated him. His body is incredibly strong. Xiao Tian then chuckled. Xiao Yuer, I may increase our speed to 0.005% of full throttle. Let me know if it's uncomfortable for you. Xiao Yuer was excited. It's fine, Daddy. I think we can go even faster. This is so fun. The next second, Xiao Tian accelerated again, tearing through the space around them. Now we're at 0.008% of full throttle. How do you feel? No problem. Then let's push it to 0.01%. However, Xiao Tian had just started to accelerate when a system alert notified him that they had reached their limit. Any faster, and their bodies wouldn't be able to handle it. Somewhat reluctantly, Xiao Tian said, already at the limit? Then let's just keep it this way. Little did he know, Long Qiudao was already white with fear, thinking, this is just 0.01%? You're joking, right? You're only 20 years old. How is your physical strength so monstrous? I didn't advance this quickly even if I started training in the womb. At this moment, Ziruoyan stood on the city wall, watching a large number of people migrating from the north, and far off in the sky, many figures were floating, staring in the direction of the imperial city. Then, Zhong Yangming came up to Ziruoyan and reported, Your Majesty, these are the last of the people from the north. Ziruoyan nodded lightly. I understand. She then looked at those floating figures in the distance. It seems the Eastern Flame Kingdom and the Astral Pavilion can't wait anymore. They're not even pretending to hide it. Luo Fengyuan came up to Ziruoyan and spoke softly. In 3 more days, the National Seal Jade Stamp will fully mature, and the National Fate will fully coalesce. There's no need to hide anything anymore. Ziruoyan took the National Seal Jade Stamp from her storage ring. The gold light on it was even more dazzling now, and it emitted an imperial aura. Ziruoyan knew that this was what the enemies wanted. She could protect the Jade Stamp, but where was Lord Xiao? A month had already passed. Just then, Luo Fengyuan's guard, the eldest, pointed to the sky and shouted in surprise, Eastern Flame Emperor. They saw in the distance a horse stepping on flames, pulling a golden throne that floated through the air. Seated on the throne was a majestic-looking man. Luo Fengyuan wore a disdainful expression and said, Eastern Flame Kingdom's Emperor, that Eastern Gaoxian? Interesting. As an emperor of the Eastern Flame Kingdom, kingdom. He doesn't sit in our own country but roams around. What a worthless emperor. After saying that, Luo Fengyuan noticed that everyone around her had gone silent, and Zi Ruoyan and others were looking at her strangely. Luo Fengyuan finally realized her mistake and turned her head arrogantly. I am a demon empress, not an emperor. Zi Ruoyan shook her head helplessly at Luo Fengyuan's behavior. As an empress, she's probably the least reliable. The good thing is she's willing to learn. Even if you use harsh methods to supervise her studies, she's quite pleased. Just then, a humming sound came from the sky, and another figure drew everyone's attention. It was Zhou Tianji, the master of the Astral Pavilion. He leisurely walked over to Eastern Gaoxian and said, "Didn't expect you to arrive so quickly. You haven't changed, still as flamboyant as ever." Zi Ruoyan glared at the two with intense anger. It's these two who created a false dynasty, killed my brother, and tried to control the fate of our family. Suddenly, Luo Fengyuan touched her chin and spoke. Something doesn't feel right. Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji, both of them came here in person? Zi Ruoyan looked at her questioningly. What's not right about them coming here? They've spent nearly 100 years planning. Isn't it logical for them to supervise things personally at the last minute? Luo Fengyuan shook her head. They are outside the southern wilderness realm, and they won't be sealed off there. In that special area, there's only one entrance and exit. They should be guarding the door, not entering. Coming in could actually seal off their powers and add unnecessary risk. Zi Ruoyan also began to ponder. She knew Luo Fengyuan was very knowledgeable about combat, so her analysis made sense. At that moment, Zhong Yangming hesitated for a moment but couldn't help but speak. If we go by Her Majesty Luo's words, Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji must have other plans. I dare to guess that their scheme isn't solely aimed at your national fate. Zi Ruoyan's heart skipped a beat, and she unconsciously clenched her fists. Not just the national fate, the eldest interjected. Based on the information we currently have, this plot is indeed aimed at the legitimate imperial national fate. Upon hearing this, Zhong Yangming suddenly thought of something. Your Majesty, can you sense the prince now? Zi Ruoyan closed her eyes to sense carefully, but then shook her head. No, I can't. The slave ring is still present, which means Lord Xiao is alive. But I can't sense his location. He must be too far from us. Luo Fengyuan patted her on the shoulder and comforted. It's okay. As long as he's safe, that's what matters. Once we settle things here, I'll use the power of the primordial demon kingdom to find Xiao. At that moment, Zi Ruoyan noticed that Zhong Yangming looked disheartened. She sighed quietly and reassured. I didn't realize your bond was so strong. You don't have to worry. He has good luck on his side, and nothing will happen to him. Zhong Yangming internally grumbled. I'm not worried about the prince encountering trouble. I was thinking that if the prince could come, neither the Eastern Flame Emperor nor the strongest master of the Astral Pavilion would stand a chance. With just one punch from the prince, all crises would be averted. At this moment, Xiao Tian, along with Xiao Yuer and Long Qiudao, searching for the path to the Eastern Flame Kingdom. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao Yuer, who was sitting on Xiao Tian's shoulder, suddenly pointed to a space rift ahead and asked, Daddy, did we loop back again? Long Qiudao felt anxious in his heart. We're surrounded by darkness in this void. How are we supposed to find our way? What should we do? After a pause, Long Qiudao carefully asked, Lord Xiao, could we try taking a different route? I think I can somewhat recognize this part of the void and relate it to the routes I remember. Xiao Tian was somewhat surprised. This place is pitch black. How can you remember the way? Long Qiudao hurriedly explained. It's a little skill of mine. The old human emperor kept me close because of my strong spatial awareness and reliable sense of direction. Upon hearing this, Xiao Tian suddenly shouted at Long Qiudao, How dare you insult the old human emperor? Long Qiudao was stunned for a moment, but seeing Xiao Tian's expression, he asked, When did I insult him? Xiao Yuer, who was sitting on Xiao Tian's shoulder, swung her little feet and explained, Your words just now basically implied that the old human emperor is directionally challenged. That's why he kept you close, right? Xiao Tian affectionately rubbed Xiao Yuer's head. See, my smart daughter figured it out in an instant. How can you be so dumb? Not even on par with a little girl. Feeling praised by Xiao Tian, Xiao Yuer immediately made a cheeky face at Long Qiudao, who was dumbfounded. Is this Xiao Yuer really the manifestation of the imperial dragon energy left behind by the old human emperor? Are you sure she's not Lord Zhao's illegitimate daughter? Subsequently, Xiao Tian could only take Long Qiudao on a few more detours. However, he noticed that the power flowing through this realm actually came in two types, one violent, the other gentle. It was like chewing gum with two different flavors mixed in. The taste was unique. If he weren't in such a rush to get back, Xiao Tian would love to sample it more. I wonder how things are on the Great Flame side. I need to think of a cool entrance, Xiao Tian muttered as a mask suddenly appeared in his hand. Looking at the black demonic face he had modified, he thought, I'll call you the King of Hell mask from now on. At that moment, it seemed like he thought of something and immediately commanded in his sea of consciousness, Puppy, pull up the cool entrance scenes from previous hosts. Alright, master, please wait, Puppy responded. Meanwhile, in the sea of consciousness, Puppy was worrying. Where do I have previous hosts? All my data is made up based on information from other system seniors. Suddenly, an idea came to Puppy. Why not reference Master's cool moments on Earth and combine it with other senior data? Puppy felt felt more confident. Yes, that'll work. Soon, various cool entrance poses were displayed before Xiao Tian. He watched with great interest, thinking, wow, these poses are really cool. They do look a bit familiar, though. Never mind, this one is good. Let's keep it as an option. Damn, why do I like all these poses so much? Inside the sea of consciousness, Puppy stood quietly to one side, watching as the soul of Xiao Tian, who was sitting cross-legged, showed a satisfied smile. Puppy also couldn't help but smile. As long as you're happy, that's all that matters. Meanwhile, at another location, a furious shout echoed within the Imperial Palace. What exactly is this Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion up to? Setting up base in the north of the Imperial City is one thing, but the Astral Pavilion even created a floating island, and the Eastern Flame Kingdom brought in a small city as their palace. What is this? Have they moved everyone over here or what? Luo Fengyuan looked at the memorial report, her face filled with anger. Ziruoyan also slammed the table and snorted coldly. It seems like they want to enjoy watching us in our most desperate moments, don't they? Hearing this, Luo Fengyuan smiled. With so many people coming, they probably want to enjoy some sort of show. Their actions are indeed strange, but no matter what they're planning, we'll have to fight them sooner or later. We can just kill these scoundrels and be done with it. Luo Fengyuan suddenly stood up, clenching her fists. In a head-on fight, they can't win against us. Ziruoyan looked at her speechlessly. You really are a rash empress. Unaware of Ziruoyan's thoughts, Luo Fengyuan walked over and said with a smile, don't worry, I'll make sure we have a good fight. Ziruoyan could only smile bitterly. Is fighting all that's on her mind? Just then, a humming sound echoed, and the national seal jade stamp on the table began to levitate. The next second, the jade stamp emitted the sound of a dragon's roar. A golden light shone so intensely it almost materialized. This is it. The national fate is about to fully coalesce. Luo Fengyuan realized that when the sun rises in the east, that will be the moment the innate embryo jade fully matures, and the national fate will be solidified. It looks like things are moving faster than we thought. As she spoke, she suddenly turned her head, challenging Ziruoyan with her eyes. Are you ready for a big battle? You're not scared, are you? Ziruoyan walked over to Luo Fengyuan. Who said I'm scared? They both looked out of the window together. At this moment, above the royal city of Great Flame, a dazzling golden light burst forth, transforming into a divine dragon that soared over the royal city. Many citizens hurried to the welfare temple to offer incense and pray to the supreme benevolent sugar baby deity, hoping for his protection over Great Flame. Just then, a streak of golden light, carrying a chill, swept over the royal palace's main hall and appeared above the northern gate of the royal city. The moment she appeared, the golden dragon that had originally been swirling around started to encircle her. Ziruoyan was seen clad in golden armor and holding a giant sword. The immense golden light gradually diminished and finally spiraled behind her. Ziruoyan then spoke to the citizens below. You may have heard a lot of rumors these days and learned a lot of news. I can now tell you, it's all true. I can't promise that you will all be safe, nor can I be certain that Great Flame can win. Upon hearing this, the citizens below raised their heads, looking worriedly at their empress. Is it true that your majesty may not make it this time? Their fists clenched, wishing they could share the burden with their empress. Ziruoyan spoke again. But there's one thing I can guarantee. If anyone is to die, I will be the first. Do you know, your beloved prince once told me, the emperor guards the nation's gate. A monarch dies for the state. With a deafening shout from Ziruoyan, countless citizens flushed red and chanted loudly, long live the empress. Long live the sugar baby deity. A moment later, the first rays of morning sun shot from the distant east. The earth shook instantly, and the golden dragon let out a roar, then plunged into the national seal jade stamp. At this moment, the national fate solidified, and the innate embryo jade was fully matured. The national seal jade stamp instantly fused into Ziruoyan's body. Brilliant golden ice crystals, resembling dragon scales, began to gradually climb onto Ziruoyan's golden armor. The empress, shrouded in a golden cold aura, parted her red lips slightly. Her breath froze the space in front of her, filling it with frost. The next second, Ziruoyan's body shone with a golden light. She raised her hand and spoke solemnly. This is my Great Flame, and these are my people. If anyone dares to harm them, they will have to step over my dead body. Saying this, Ziruoyan suddenly lifted the giant sword in her hand, pointing it directly at the enemies outside the city. All the citizens below knelt on the ground, continuously chanting for their empress, praying to get through this crisis. Not far away, Luo Fengyuan looked at Ziruoyan in the sky and laughed to her personal guard. See, worthy of being the woman that caught my eye. Both looked at each other speechless. My empress, what do you have to be so proud of? Your romantic rival is both beautiful and intelligent, outclassing you in minutes. Luo Fengyuan grabbed the black scythe in her hand and excitedly told her guard, same old plan. Zibun lures the enemy openly, then we take our chance to strike. Outside the city walls, people from the Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion were all hovering in midair, staring down Ziruoyan inside the city. A standoff. A great battle was on the verge of erupting, yet in such a tense atmosphere, a full 15 minutes passed, and neither side had given the order to attack. The people of the Eastern Flame Kingdom and the disciples of the Astral Pavilion all looked curiously at their respective Empress and Pavilion Master. Why haven't they given the order to attack? Aren't we here to seize the national fate? The national seal jade stamp is almost fully integrated into Ziruoyan's body. However, neither Eastern Gaoxian nor Zhou Tianji made a move. They weren't even looking at Ziruoyan across from them. Instead, they kept their eyes fixed on the distant green flame mountain. Both had only one thought in mind at the moment. Why hasn't that thing appeared yet? At that moment, a crisp shattering sound resonated in the sky of the bipolar realm. The barrier of this domain was directly broken through. A figure, resembling a falling meteor, descended from the sky. The newcomer was Xiao Tian, who had been lost in the void for a long time. Feeling the energy around him, he thought, this place is indeed different from the southern wilderness realm. The power of heaven and earth here can be absorbed freely. I don't even have to suppress my aura. How comfortable. Rubbing his shoulders, Xiao Tian looked at Long Qiudao. Your navigation skills are really not bad. Thank you for the compliment. He quickly humbled himself. It's little dragon's honor to be able to assist you. At that moment, sitting on Xiao Tian's shoulder, Xiao Yuer suddenly floated up. Daddy, what should we do next? Xiao Tian revealed a slight smile. Let's go to the Eastern Flame Kingdom and have a heart-to-heart with that emperor. Saying this, Xiao Tian looked ahead, a unique rhythm spreading out. Thinking to himself, Xiao Tian decided to open up his senses a bit to navigate properly, so as to avoid going to the wrong place or finding the wrong person, which would be really embarrassing. But the next second, Xiao Tian was stunned. The vast imperial city was completely empty of people. Then, Xiao Tian, along with Xiao Yuer and Long Qiudao, took to the sky, heading directly for the imperial city of the Eastern Flame Kingdom. The entire city seemed like a ghost town, eerily quiet and devoid of any activity. Items were scattered on the ground, but not a single person could be found. Seeing the fresh scratch marks on the walls, they deduced that the people of the Eastern Flame Kingdom's imperial city must have been taken away by something from above. The citizens had likely tried to grab onto objects in their panic, but failed to hold on to anything. Long Qiudao closed his eyes to sense the surrounding energies and then spoke. As the guardian of the Holy Dragon Relic, I am very familiar with its defensive array. After probing, I found that the protective formation of the imperial city is still intact. It has not been damaged, but was deliberately turned off. Hearing Long Qiudao's analysis, Xiao Tian, who was walking, suddenly stopped. He bent down to pick up a candied hawthorn from the ground, noticing the tiny bite marks on it. Let's go check other places, he suggested. The trio then ascended into the sky, surveying the entire Eastern Flame Kingdom from above. Even Xiao Yuer couldn't help but ask, Daddy, this place is so weird. Why have so many people disappeared? It's as if they've all been taken away. Xiao Tian chuckled. Interesting. Lu Outyin would never have imagined that the people he was willing to sacrifice his life to protect would all be gone. Suddenly, it seemed as though Xiao Tian thought of something. He abruptly changed direction. Let's go and see the situation at Astral Pavilion now. Soon, the three arrived at the headquarters of Astral Pavilion. Palaces dotted the mountain peaks, but just like the Eastern Flame Kingdom, the place was empty. The traces of people being taken away and the deliberately deactivated formation were identical. Xiao Tian clenched his fist, puzzled. What exactly are the Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion up to? Meanwhile, in the southern wilderness realm, Ziruoyan was frowning, looking at the two individuals in front of her. What are they waiting for? Why haven't they made a move yet? Ziruoyan followed their gaze towards Green Flame Mountain. Is there something there? Suddenly, a booming sound echoed through the heavens, and the distant Green Flame Mountain slowly began to crack open. It was as if something was struggling to break free. Shattered earth was continuously connected by golden threads, and an aura of desolate battle intent shot straight up to the sky. An ancient ruin of a city emerged from the ground, slowly rising. Luo Fengyuan looked puzzled. Is this a palace-type spiritual tool? And it's so large? A bodyguard next to her, known as Old 3, spoke in astonishment. And it's a fortress-type city for warfare. Judging by the flame emblem, it should be left behind by the destroyed Great Flame Empire. At that moment, the second pointed to the ancient city ruins and said, Look, there's a huge furnace in the middle of the city. Indeed, a gigantic furnace, taller than the city walls, was situated right in the middle of the city. The solidified battle intent was emanating from this furnace. Just then, Eastern Gaoxian, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly shouted excitedly, The war furnace is really here. It's a success. It really is. The ancient records and legends are all true. Eastern Gaoxian slowly began to speak. The southern wilderness realm is a very interesting place. I learned some stories from ancient times here. He abruptly turned his head towards Ziruoyan with a smile. Ziruoyan, your ancestor was one of the 4 emperors under the human emperor, the Great Flame Emperor, who was most skilled in the art of refining tools. This war furnace is your ancestor's greatest masterpiece from that era. Only those with the pure bloodline of the human emperor can awaken it. As Eastern Gaoxian admired the artistic furnace, he continued, Look, the remnants of the Great Flame Empire, the masterpiece of the Great Flame Emperor, have re-emerged because of your presence. At this moment, Lu Outyin's brother, Lu Ashi, suddenly exclaimed, Brother, your sacrifice has led to such a great reward. However, the vice president of Astral Pavilion, with a furrowed brow, asked Zhou Tianji, It's good that the plan is successful, but why does the Emperor of the Eastern Flame Kingdom know about all this? Zhou Tianji stood with his hands behind his back, leisurely saying, I personally told him, so naturally, he knows. It seemed as if everything was reasonable, but upon hearing this, the vice president's eyes widened in disbelief. Our plan was to stimulate Ziruoyan's human emperor aura to reveal the Great Flame Empire ruins in the southern wilderness realm. We intended to use the resources and wealth of these ruins to strengthen Astral Pavilion. Why would you tell Eastern Gaoxian about this? Doesn't this prevent us from making our move in secret? Not far away, Luo Fengyuan was also quite surprised. War Furnace, the 4 great emperors under the human emperor. I know about the human emperor, but what about these 4 great emperors and the Great Flame Emperor? I really don't understand. At this moment, Ziruoyan was looking at the ruins emerging from the ground and more or less understood what was going on. So, they want to use my aura to trigger these ruins, she thought. Ziruoyan's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. So, Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion, you spent so much time and effort to create a false Great Flame Dynasty just for this furnace? A mere furnace? Eastern Gaoxian shook his head upon hearing Ziruoyan's words. Ziruoyan, aren't you curious as to why the descendants of the 4 great emperors under the human emperor can only dominate in a lower-level world? Ancient records state that the Great Flame Emperor had 100 sons, all of whom were extraordinary talents. In a time of great crisis, to assist the human emperor in a counterattack, the Great Flame Emperor created this war furnace. Once the war furnace was completed, the Great Flame Emperor threw himself into it. His 99 sons also followed their father into the furnace. 100 people, father and sons, sacrificed themselves to refine this furnace, just to give your ancestor, the human emperor, the power to win. Listening to Eastern Gaoxuan's words, Ziruoyan suppressed the shock in her heart and asked, what exactly do you want to do? Eastern Gaoxian snorted coldly and waved his hand. Another furnace suddenly appeared, looking exactly like the war furnace. He then spoke, although I've replicated the war furnace, I can't use it. Obviously, only the real one is useful. Moreover, not only do we need the genuine article, but we also need an extremely noble bloodline to ignite the war furnace. Whether it's the spark to ignite the furnace or the main material, it's you, the true imperial bloodline of humanity, the descendant of the human emperor. At this point, Zhou Tianji, who had been standing silently, suddenly made a gesture with his finger in the air. The war furnace began to wobble with his movement. Eastern Gaoxian then maneuvered the replicated furnace to hover above it. Immediately, the furnace lid was opened and it tilted slightly toward the war furnace. Astonishingly, countless wailing commoners slid from the replicated furnace and were poured into the war furnace. Not far away, Luoshi was enraged. Are those people? Are they commoners and officials? He incredulously roared at Eastern Gaoxian. Your Majesty, what are you doing? Those are the people and officials of our empire. The vice president of Astral Pavilion, who was not far away, was equally shocked and asked Zhou Tianji, Vice President, don't you see? Among those being poured into the war furnace are many of our Astral Pavilion disciples. Zhou Tianji calmly nodded. Indeed, apart from our disciples, there are also our Astral Pavilion commoners. With that, he coldly looked at his vice president and asked, would you prefer to throw yourself into the furnace, or shall I personally toss you in? Zhou Tianji's words left his vice president frozen, his mind blank. Eastern Gaoxian no longer feigned decorum. He spread his arms wide and shouted excitedly, at this point, there's no need to hide anything from you all. Plundering fate may save Eastern Flame Kingdom temporarily, but what if we merge with fate, becoming one with it? As he said this, his expression turned ferocious. With the war furnace, what's stopping my brother Zhou Tianji and me from creating another Eastern Flame Kingdom with fate, recognized and accepted by heaven and earth? What's the loss if we sacrifice some commoners? At this moment, Astral Pavilion's vice president Zhou Isin finally understood their plot. He hastily ran towards Empress Ziruoyan, Great Flame Empress. I am Zhou Isin, the vice president of Astral Pavilion. Ziruoyan glanced at him and said, we'll discuss past grievances later. Right now, we should join forces to deal with these 2 beasts. Eastern Flame Kingdom's Prime Minister Luoshi also clenched his fists and yelled at the people behind him from the Eastern Flame Kingdom, Luoshi of the Lu family, even if it means rebelling against this dog of an empress today. The next second, the majority stood behind Ziruoyan. Ziruoyan looked at Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji on the other side. Anyone else who wants to live should join me against these foes. Eastern Gaoxian looked at this gathering of people with interest. In his eyes, they were nothing but a ragtag group. With a wave of his hand, he said, you think joining forces will keep you safe? The next second, 10 uniformly dressed people instantly appeared around him. Seize them! Upon Eastern Gaoxuan's command, Zhou Isin and the others charged forward. A mere 10 people want to take on so many of us? Zhou Isin snorted coldly, brandishing his long sword and charging towards a brawny man in black. However, just as he reached the brawny man, the man suddenly extended his hand, landing a heavy punch on Zhou Isin's chest. Zhou Isin was sent flying instantaneously. Not just that, Luoshi, who had also charged forward, changed his expression dramatically. He too was sent flying backward, and both individuals collided in the air, almost simultaneously knocked off course. Luoshi was the first to realize something was off. Body cultivation. These are all practitioners from the body cultivation realm realm. Can we even win against them? In a southern wilderness realm, where everyone's strength is suppressed to a single level, body cultivators who are invincible within their own realm are practically unbeatable. A disoriented Luoshi didn't even notice that one of the body cultivators had already rushed up to him and was reaching out to grab him. Fortunately, at that moment, a flash of golden light burst forth. The body cultivator was actually sent flying by the golden greatsword. Luoshi looked up in surprise to find that the person who had just saved him was none other than Empress Zeroyan. Zeroyan looked down at him and said, "Is this all the spirit you have, Eastern Flame Prime Minister who has caused my father countless troubles? Your 4 great Vidras, who are feigning death under your command, are still fighting desperately. Don't let me look down on you, people of Eastern Flame." Luoshi gave a bitter smile as he picked up his long sword. He was actually being scolded by a young girl. How he had regressed. The next second, Luoshi's eyes sharpened. The final wish my brother entrusted to me was to protect the people of Eastern Flame. Brothers, attack. For our lives. We must fight to the death. In an instant, the air above the royal city became a battlefield. Zeroyan fought 3-on-1 and even gained the upper hand. With her icy cold aura, she nearly froze the 3 body cultivators. Zeroyan let out a cold laugh. So-called body cultivators. That's all you are. However, the body cultivators were both shocked and furious. What skill is this woman using? Why can't I use my speed and strength? Zeroyan didn't notice that someone had quietly sneaked up behind her and was reaching out to capture her. Zebon, watch out! A sharp shout suddenly rang out. A blaze of purple flames roared past, and a sharp scythe directly severed the extended hand. Clad in black armor, Luo Fengyuan appeared behind Zeroyan in an instant. With a high kick, she sent the body cultivator flying, mumbling as she did, "These body cultivators are really annoying. They still managed to be fine after all this." Only then did she turn back, her face full of disdain as she exclaimed, "Can you be more careful? How did you not notice such an ambush?" Zeroyan, swinging her golden greatsword, struck down the 3 body cultivators, making them spit blood as they were sent flying. Only then did she speak with a faint smile. "Well, I still have you, don't I?" Luo Fengyuan looked at the encroaching body cultivators, retreating as she spoke. "It's funny that you're not worried I might deliberately not take action, just to have Xiao brother all to myself after you're dead." Back to back with Luo Fengyuan, Zeroyan glanced around at the approaching figures and said, "You won't, I trust you." After she spoke, their golden battle armor and black armor clashed together. Both of them stared ahead, facing the enemy eager to strike. "Well then, let this Empress give you a proper lesson on how battle and war should be conducted. Is that so?" Zeroyan also shimmered with golden light, her body emanating a chilling aura. "If it's a fight you want, then let's fight." At this moment, facing the body cultivators who were invincible within the same realm, everyone had no choice but to give it their all in a fierce battle. Led by Zeroyan, along with Eastern Flame Kingdom's Luoshi and Astral Pavilion's Zhou providing support, they were barely able to resist the enemy's onslaught. The expression on Luoshi's face was grave. They all are from a lower tier world, body cultivators of the tyrant body realm. Zhou also wore a grave expression. The body cultivators from the Overlord body sect are all brutes, stubborn people who don't listen to reason. Meanwhile, not far behind Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji, a giant elder over 5 meters tall had appeared without anyone noticing. The elder, with a buzz cut and white hair, had his arms crossed and was entirely composed of bulging muscles. This man was none other than the sect leader of Overlord body sect, Yuan Ba. Luoshi looked surprised. Is that the sect leader of the Overlord body sect, Yuan Ba? Why hasn't he made his move yet? Zhou could only console himself. "Don't worry, we also have a formidable fighting force on our side." At the same time, Luo Fengyuan was laughing wildly. "Haha, you guys think you're so tough? Keep at it, you scrubs." Swinging her scythe imbued with purple flames, she wreaked havoc among the body cultivators around her, leaving them in a miserable state. "Ha ha ha, is that all you've got?" Luo Fengyuan laughed uproariously and domineeringly, although her face clearly bore some injuries. The 3 body cultivators beside her looked at her with complex expressions. This woman is even more twisted than we are. On the side, Zeroyan, wielding an intimidating chill, cleaved a body cultivator in half with her sword. She then turned to look at Luo Fengyuan. "We were fighting side by side just fine. Why did she suddenly rush into the crowd like a madwoman? And she's getting more and more ferocious. The surrounding body cultivators are even starting to fear her. She can't keep this up for much longer, can she? Her movements are starting to slow down. She must be getting tired." Seeing that the situation was at a stalemate, Yuan Ba suddenly let go of his crossed arms and rubbed his fists. "Looks like it's time for this old man to step in." As he spoke, he turned to Zhou Tianji. "Don't forget your promise." Zhou Tianji smiled. "The contract is set. There's no going back. Rest assured, sect leader Yuan, if this succeeds, it will benefit both of us." Hearing this, Yuan Ba wasted no time and charged straight at Zeroyan. The air exploded under his feet, sending out a booming sound. Zeroyan had just turned her head upon hearing the noise, only to find that Yuan Ba had already reached her in an instant. His horrifying physique brought a tremendously oppressive feeling. "Young lady, I'm doing this for my sect. Please forgive me. Now die, Yuan Ba said, his veins bulging as he raised his arms to smash down on Zeroyan. Fortunately, Zeroyan's chilling aura slightly delayed his movement, allowing her to dodge quickly. She looked at the old man and smirked. If you want my life, let's see if you have the skill to take it. Saying this, Zeroyan's imperial spiritual energy exploded and a freezing chill emanated, transforming into countless ice spikes. When they hit Yuan Ba, they only left minor scratches. Seizing the opportunity, Zeroyan lifted her giant sword, which was enveloped in an aura resembling that of a dragon. Ultimate technique, ice formation, she yelled. In an instant, a cold sword intent filled with endless frost rushed towards Yuan Ba. Yuan Ba just chuckled. A very good strike. Unfortunately, young lady, you're too inexperienced, and your foundation is too shallow. He punched down without dodging, colliding fiercely with the ice and sword energy dragon. The dragon shattered, and Zeroyan screamed as she was hit by the backlash. Seizing the opportunity, Yuan Ba followed the falling Zeroyan and raised his fist to strike again. The next second, Luo Fengyuan suddenly appeared, blocking the terrifying punch. She was sent flying and collided with Zeroyan. Quickly stabilizing herself, Zeroyan caught the falling Luo Fengyuan and helped her to her feet. Then, somewhat annoyed, Zeroyan asked, "Why did you block his attack? You could have attacked him from behind. Why take this hit?" Luo Fengyuan explained, "This old man has been cultivating his physique for too long. If you were to take that punch, you'd either be crippled or dead. It had to be blocked. Besides, he's a body saint, someone who has broken the limits within 10th level body cultivation. In the outside world, I could easily snap his neck. Unfortunately, we're in this special domain, so it's troublesome." Hearing this, Zeroyan took a deep breath. If it gets too difficult, find a chance to escape. Once out of this special domain, they can't touch you. Luo Fengyuan shook her head. There's no chance to escape now. They've probably already sealed off the exits. Moreover, I wouldn't run away. I want to crush this old man's bones. At this moment, two figures, one gold and one purple, clashed wildly with the body cultivation boss Yuan Ba in midair. Yuan Ba became increasingly excited. "You two want to crush my bones? Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being ruthless." Yuan Ba gathered his power, creating terrifying waves of energy. With a fierce punch, the sky resonated with two explosive sounds. Zeroyan and Luo Fengyuan were instantly sent flying. A moment later, Zeroyan stood up, her sword-holding hand trembling so much that she could barely hold onto it. Luo Fengyuan propped herself up with her massive black scythe, muttering discontentedly, "This old man can't be killed. So annoying." Yuan Ba sneered, "You, the holy demon Empress, are so arrogant." Eastern Gaoxian, who had been watching the battle with his arms crossed, shook his head and chimed in, "Did you think you weren't discovered when you snuck into the southern wilderness realm? Do you know how excited I was when I found out you had secretly entered this special domain? I was wondering how to coax you in, and you fell into the trap." Luo Fengyuan looked puzzled. "So you knew all along?" Zhou Tianji, who had been calm all this time, revealed a smile. "If both you and Zeroyan are thrown into the furnace of war for refining, the benefits would be extraordinary, perhaps even doubled. Just accept your fate. Your resistance is pointless." Hearing this, Yuan Ba sighed, "Little ones, in this special domain that suppresses your power, you're no match for me. Struggling is pointless. Your fates have already been sealed." Yuan Ba's eyes revealed a trace of bitterness. "It's as if we body cultivators are bound by the laws of this world, doomed to live as nothing more than brainless brutes our entire lives." Zeroyan merely snorted coldly. Suddenly, a red cloth appeared in her hand. This was the bridal veil she had placed on Xiao Tian's head when they were wed. Zeroyan tightly tied her hand to the hilt of her sword with the red cloth, even using her teeth to pull it tighter. She then took a deep breath. "You may believe in fate, but I do not. If you want to throw me into that furnace, you'll have to kill me first." Luo Fengyuan also burst into a defiant laugh. "You expect me to willingly jump into the furnace? What a joke. Today it's either you die or I die." Just then, the gates of the imperial city were suddenly burst open. Zhong Li Huang, who was supposed to be guarding the city, led a charge with her daughter Zhongling and even Commander Lu Yan and a group of guards. Zhong Li Huang took the lead. "Your Majesty, let us go into battle once more. For the protection of our great flame nation, we shall die without regrets. Soldiers, citizens, charge." No sooner had her words fallen than all sorts of people, from officials and soldiers to powerless commoners, burst out shouting and rushing forward. "Your Majesty, do not fear. We are all here. We're all going to die anyway. We can't let these beasts look down on us." Zeroyan looked at the scene, her eyes filling with tears. She tried hard to keep from crying. "You all," Zhong Li Huang interrupted, "Your Majesty, this might be our final battle. Lead us in the charge. If we are to die, let us die standing." Zeroyan looked up at the sky, eyes fixed on the three distant figures who were smirking at them. "Even if we die, we must take a piece of their flesh with us." Luo Fengyuan laughed softly. "I'll grind their bones to dust and swallow them. It's a pity, though. I haven't had the time to learn how to be a good empress from you, and I haven't had the chance to say goodbye to brother Xiao either." Zeroyan sighed lightly and then took out a token from her storage ring. "In a sense, this is a good thing. At least he can continue to live a good life." Saying this, Zeroyan Zeroyan packed away her last trace of weakness, hung the token on her waist, and stood back to back with Luo Fengyuan. In unison, they declared, "Let's prepare for a fight to the death." Eastern Gaoxian, hovering in midair, watched this scene with a face full of disdain. Such nauseating sentimentality, futile self-pity. In the end, you can't escape death. Zhou Tianji beside him let out a soft shout. Yuan Ba, continue, but be careful not to mangle them too much. It will make them hard to refine. Yuan Ba murmured quietly, "I'm very sorry. I have reasons for having to do this. Everyone, take action." Just then, an abrupt voice rang out. A body cultivation disciple yelled, "Sect Master, people on the side of the 7th Elder are dying rapidly. Someone is entering. Dead. The 7th Elder is dead. What's going on? The 8th and 9th Elders at the second line of defense are also dead. All their disciples are dead too." Yuan Ba quickly snatched a communication token. "Calm down. What exactly is happening? Are you sure? Those 3 elders were close to breaking their limits. How could they possibly be killed in this area where powers are suppressed?" At that moment, a huge rumbling noise came from the distance and almost instantaneously arrived above everyone's heads. A robed figure, Xiao Tian, shot into the battlefield like a meteor, capturing everyone's attention. That man, he has arrived. At this moment, he hovered in the air, tilting his head slightly upwards, his whole body emitting a dazzling golden light. Everyone below was puzzled. Who is this guy? Why does he make such a grand entrance? Xiao Tian stood with his hands behind his back, slowly retracting the golden light but remaining still, maintaining an enigmatic image. However, at this moment he was actually asking his system, "Puppy, quickly observe everyone's expressions. Are they all stunned by how handsome I am?" Puppy reluctantly chuckled. Everyone looked shocked, but the special flame effects you used by harnessing the power of the heavens and the earth have already hit 1,000,000,000 points on the handsomeness scale. Hearing this, Xiao Tian cleared his throat a bit awkwardly. "Alright, we can't get too distracted. According to the plot, they will definitely loudly question who I am. I must make a cool entrance and can't miss the moment to show off because I'm lost in thought." Thinking this, Xiao Tian expectantly spread his arms wide. "Come on, say it, loudly, and without reservation, question who I am." Unexpectedly, Zeroyan was the first to speak. "You've come back at quite the opportune time, Lord Xiao." Xiao Tian was momentarily stunned. What did I just hear? I look like this. How did she recognize me? Xiao Tian nervously turned his head. Zeroyan looked sincere. "I thought I'd never get the chance to see you again." Luo Fengyuan also looked delighted. "Brother Xiao, you really do look good like this." Xiao Tian swallowed, his eyes turning towards Zhongling and the others, clearly saying, "Did you guys betray me?" The 3 hastily shook their heads and widened their eyes, looking completely innocent. "We're being framed, Prince." Seeing this, Xiao Tian consoled himself internally. It must be a coincidence. They are definitely trying to trick me. If I change my voice, they surely won't recognize me. With this thought, he finally spoke. "What are you two talking about? This king of hell doesn't quite understand." He used a seductive, husky voice. Unexpectedly, the soldiers and citizens below suddenly raised their arms and shouted, "Supreme Benevolent Sugar Baby Deity." The whole world echoed with their uniform and enthusiastic cheers. Standing nearby, Luoshi and Zhouisen stared dumbfounded at the scene. Is Xiao Tian beloved by the people, or do they hate him? Can living off someone else really make people this excited? Zeroyan tried to hide a smile, while Luo Fengyuan covered her face, struggling to keep from laughing. "I can't laugh, or Brother Zhao's mood might collapse." Zhongling and Lu Yan, on the other hand, had already doubled over with laughter. Only Xiao Tian stood there, stunned. "I thought I hid myself quite well. Okay, I can understand if Zeroyan and Luo Fengyuan, who are closest to me, recognize me. But what's the big deal with everyone else? Have the people's eyes become so sharp?" Thinking of this, Xiao Tian let out a somber sigh. "Also, could you not shout such an embarrassing title so enthusiastically? Are you jerks having fun?" Annoyed, he removed his mask. "I even went to the trouble of refining this anew. What's the point of wearing it now? I thought of so many cool ways to make my entrance. This is infuriating." Resigned, he could only muster a smile uglier than a cry and waved at the people. Consequently, the shouts for Supreme Benevolent Sugar Baby Deity got even louder. Zhongling was almost in tears from laughing. "Sister Lu Yan, why do you think the people recognized Prince so easily?" "Because the title is not self-proclaimed or flattery from others." Lu Yan turned her head, full of emotion. "It's genuinely what the people think. Their love for Prince comes from the heart, which is why they recognized him instantly. It's not that Prince failed to hide, it's that his radiance is too dazzling to conceal," Lu Yan added. Zhongling looked back at the cheering crowd. The fervor in their eyes was so genuine. Suddenly, she felt she understood, and the next second, she too clenched her fist and shouted, "Supreme Benevolent Sugar Baby Deity." Everyone had smiles on their faces. Looking at their genuinely heartfelt smiles and true loyalty, Xiao Tian scratched his head and gave an awkward smile. Well, this is the place I have to protect, and these are the people I have to protect. With me here, nobody can bully them. At that moment, Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji were staring at Xiao Tian. Is this the useless individual Zeroyan summoned from the body cultivation realm? Zhou Tianji gave a slight smile. "It seems that this person from the body cultivation realm is not inferior to your overlord body sect. Even the trap void turbulence rune formation couldn't handle him. could it? Eastern Gaoxian was equally unconcerned. Perhaps there was some unexpected situation, but it's just him alone. He can't stir up much trouble. Yuan Ba, don't tell me you can't handle this. Yuan Ba looked unexpectedly serious. He should be like me, breaking through limits to attain the title of a body saint. It won't be easy to take him down. Hearing this, Zhou Tianji wasted no words and extended a finger. Double the resources in the original agreement. Seal the pact. The next second, a blood-red mark appeared on both their wrists. Heaven confirms, the blood pact is established. On the other side, Xiao Tian gestured for Zhongling to come over. Zhongling walked up to him, waving her hands. Prince, Her Majesty knew about you from the beginning. You can't blame me. Annoyed, Xiao Tian pinched her cheek. I know. Now, recollect what's been happening lately in your mind, and think about letting me know. Zhongling obediently followed Xiao Tian's instruction, recalling recent events. Very quickly, Xiao Tian was updated on the latest developments. This is insane, he thought. The people of Eastern Flame, those from the Astral Pavilion, all were brought here by their respective emperors and leaders. Lu Outyin, you are truly ridiculous. The emperor you swore to protect has abandoned the kingdom you swore to guard. It's truly sad. Just then, a questioning voice came from the sky. Xiao Tian, Great Flame Prince, from which body cultivation realm world do you come? Xiao Tian looked up and saw an old man with white hair leading a group of people in the sky. Each one was glaring at him with extreme ferocity. Eastern Gaoxian, standing next to the old man, suddenly sneered. Don't dare to speak. Are you embarrassed? It makes sense. You probably already know about Ziruoyan's bloodline, don't you? Do you feel you're not worthy of her? You're just a body cultivation with no future. Ziruoyan abruptly cut him off, shouting, shut your mouth. In my eyes, he is simply Xiao Tian. Luo Fengyuan also looked icy, her eyes filled with anger. What are you, an emperor of the minor Eastern Flame Kingdom, to judge my man? Xiao Tian turned his head in surprise, looking at his two wives' reactions. Wait, a body cultivation with no future? Look at their damn protective instincts. How did I not think of that? Seeing the two women getting angry, Eastern Gaoxian couldn't help but mock them with laughter. Ah, you both seem anxious. If you're so angry, come and kill me. Zhou Tianji coldly interjected. They can't. They don't even have the qualifications to make us lift a finger. In this place, fighting against a body cultivation with the title of a body saint, along with 100 rank 10 body cultivations, even a formidable individual like Prince Xiao is doomed. Let's guess then, before he dies, how many rank 10 body cultivations from the Overlord body sect can he take down? Zhou Tianji wagered 10. Eastern Gaoxian laughed recklessly. I bet 5. Yuan Ba in front of them just chuckled and rubbed his wrists. We body cultivators are made for fighting. Can't get angry. Anger won't win fights. Better to brutalize the weak. Take them down. With Yuan Ba's roaring command, he himself took the lead and rushed forward, his muscles starting to inflate violently. Ziruoyan, enduring extreme pain, emanated golden light as she stood in front of Xiao Tian, her face tense, urging him to retreat. You've just arrived, breaking through the spatial rift. You can't stop this body cultivation sect elder now. Luo Fengyuan, also holding back her pain, added, Brother Xiao, rest for a bit and regain your strength. Then come help us. As they spoke, Yuan Ba's fist was already crashing down from afar, continuously shattering the air and carrying the heavy pressure of a mountain, heading straight for the three. Lu Ashi, not far away, jumped in fright. This body cultivation sect leader hadn't even been using his full strength until now. Just at that moment, Ziruoyan and Luo Fengyuan suddenly cried out. Xiao Tian swiftly reached out, wrapping his arms around their waists, and flew them away from the spot. Their faces turned slightly red as they softly called out, Brother Xiao. Xiao Tian gave them a gentle smile. It's tea time in the afternoon. You should rest. Leave the rest to me. Already unsteady on their feet, Empresses Ziruoyan and Luo Fengyuan were flown back to the city wall by Xiao Tian. Zhongling and Lu Yan quickly supported the two empresses, their eyes filled with concern. Whirling his head around to face the culprits, Xiao Tian inquired mentally to his daughter Xiao Yuer, Sweetheart, are you ready? In the sea of consciousness, Xiao Yuer confidently gestured. Dad, don't worry, everything is prepared. Puppy, what about you? Puppy also responded, Respected master, everything is ready according to your instructions. Hearing this, Xiao Tian roared, Activate special effects. Putting his mask back on, he burst out with a rank 10 aura in front of everyone. At the same time, his entire body ignited with golden flames. Determined, Xiao Tian declared, Today, I will protect my empresses. Accompanying his roar, invisible waves of force exploded outwards in successive rings. Super Earthling. The next second, the ground beneath Xiao Tian burst open, and he shot into the sky at a terrifying speed. It seemed like a punch made with all his might as he slammed it into Yuan Ba's chest. A deafening roar resounded. This body cultivation saint, who seemed invincible, was actually sent flying with one punch from Xiao Tian. Xiao Tian, hanging in midair and panting, stared intently in the direction Yuan Ba had been sent flying. To the onlookers, it seemed like he had used his trump card, but at that moment, he was actually thinking, I'm panting so hard, they better not say I'm slacking off. As expected, down below, Ziruoyan clenched her fists. Lord Xiao used so much force in that punch, he must have played his trump card. Luo Fengyuan and I will have to protect him later on. Little did she know, Xiao Tian was internally complaining at that moment. Puppy, what are you doing? Good thing I didn't listen to you and set the power to 0.0005%. This 0.0003% already sent him flying. Wouldn't 0.0005% have killed him outright? Puppy quickly explained. I apologize, Master. The enhancement from Xiao Yuer's special effects contributed to a slight increase in power, which I failed to detect. From a distance, Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji looked at each other with puzzled expressions. What is this thing? Super Earthling? What kind of world is Earth? I've never heard that lord mention it. With a sigh, Eastern Gaoxian said with a serious expression, be careful. Something about this guy doesn't feel right. Zhou Tianji carefully observed Xiao Tian, who was already panting after just one punch. This must be some special secret technique that allows him to surpass his body cultivation combat power. Let him enjoy his moment before he faces despair. Yuan Ba, who had been knocked to the ground, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, but still looked at Xiao Tian calmly. Unexpectedly, I get to see a body cultivation practitioner this strong, but is it worth harming yourself like this? Just as his words ended, disciples from the Overlord body sect started to gather around, all looking at Xiao Tian, who was burning with golden flames, with full combat intent. Xiao Tian pretended to sigh helplessly and struck a compassionate pose. Then, clenching his fist as if making a final decision, he shouted, for the people of the Great Flame, for the innocent citizens of Eastern Flame Kingdom and Astral Pavilion, and for my two empresses who have always supported me, even if it means burning my life and giving my all, I must do this. After finishing, Xiao Tian roared as if he was enduring great pain. His face under the mask started to contort. The next second, he suddenly appeared in front of a rank 10 practitioner from the Overlord body sect. The golden flames burning on him became even more intense. King of Hell, claim a life. With a loud shout, Xiao Tian swiftly pointed his finger, lightly pressing it against the other's heart. The body cultivation practitioner's eyes immediately widened, clutching his chest in pain and spitting out a mouthful of blood before dropping dead from the sky. Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji were both stunned. What's going on? Such a seemingly effortless attack, and yet it killed someone instantly. Meanwhile, Xiao Tian moved like a specter, golden flames swirling around him as he continued to target the surrounding body cultivation disciples. Yuan Ba was so infuriated that he almost broke his teeth. Fight me! What are you doing flying around? Don't touch my disciples. Come at me! Yuan Ba roared while chasing Xiao Tian, but Xiao Tian completely ignored him. Instead, he kept maneuvering among these rank 10 disciples from the Overlord body sect. Hundreds of body cultivation disciples started falling from the sky like dumplings being dropped into boiling water. From a distance, it looked as if Xiao Tian was using some kind of forbidden technique to annihilate the Overlord body sect before time ran out. At this moment, with disciples of the Overlord body sect falling like dumplings from the sky, Sect Master Yuan Ba was utterly panicked. He kept yelling for Xiao Tian to stop, but of the hundreds of body cultivation disciples, only 2 remained. One disciple gritted his teeth and swung his blade at Xiao Tian, only for Xiao Tian to calmly grab his wrist. With a snap, the disciple's wrist and blade were both shattered by Xiao Tian. The intense pain made the disciple instinctively want to cry out, but Xiao Tian swiftly covered his mouth. Don't scream. I promise to let you leave without pain. If you scream, won't that make me a liar? Even the body cultivation practitioners were stunned by this tactic. Yuan Ba watched as his disciple was held in Xiao Tian's grip, roaring in anger but unable to prevent what came next. Xiao Tian shattered the disciple's brain. The disciple's eyes rolled back and he fell limp, lifeless. Immediately, Xiao Tian sharply turned his head to look at the only remaining disciple. In the next second, he appeared in front of him and delivered a flying kick. Then, Xiao Tian covered the disciple's mouth, making it impossible for him to escape despite his struggle. One hand kept him silent while the other was placed on his forehead. As Yuan Ba rushed forward, Xiao Tian lightly twisted his hand, killing the last disciple on the spot. Yuan Ba was so angry that his whole body started to tremble. Xiao Tian, you're burning yourself up, disregarding your own life, just to torture my Overlord body sect disciples? That's excessively cruel in my view. Xiao Tian, unfazed, casually brushed his hands together. One of my wives injured her hand, and the other her leg. I'm merely letting them suffer the same kind of injuries. Isn't that fair? Moreover, Xiao Tian looked around at the fallen bodies of the body cultivation disciples. I gave them a chance to repent for their sins. Sadly, they chose not to. Hearing this, Yuan Ba became even more furious, pointing at Xiao Tian and yelling, you didn't even ask them. How do you know they didn't repent? Xiao Tian used the clothing of an Overlord body sect disciple to wipe his hands, then casually said, do I even need to ask? At those words, Yuan Ba was so angry that smoke seemed to pour out of his 7 orifices. Clenching his fists, he shouted, you're insane. I'll risk my life to tear you into pieces. You must pay with your life for my disciples. Yuan Ba's muscles swelled and his skin turned red as he exuded a hot aura. Xiao Tian spread his hands in a gesture of innocence. Some people are really strange. They think it's fine for them to harm others, but when someone fights back, they blame them for retaliating. Yuan Ba was at a loss for words, and could only reach out to grab Xiao Tian. Dodging in an instant, Xiao Tian said, "You old geezer, your brain must be going fuzzy." With that, both transformed into two streaks of light, clashing in midair, emitting deafening sounds with each collision. Not far away, Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji were intently watching the battle unfold, concern filling their hearts. Xiao Tian's forbidden technique seems stronger than we anticipated. The Overlord body sect is almost completely annihilated. Zhou Tianji suddenly drew his longsword, focusing intently on the scene. "We must find an opportunity to deal with Xiao Tian. We can't afford any mishaps." Eastern Gaoxian was restless, unconsciously clenching his fists. He thought about their previous plans. What a waste Luo Yan is. Why couldn't he have killed Xiao Tian? Below, Luo Fengyuan was also anxiously watching the two fighters. Her leg injury had largely healed, but she was still worried. "Xiao Tian is even stronger than I thought. What price did he pay to protect us all?" Thinking this, Luo Fengyuan tried to stand up, shouting, "Zibun, are you ready? It's our turn. As an empress, I can't let my man do all the work." However, Ziroyan gave her a look as if she were an idiot and said sharply, "Are you stupid? Sit down." Luo Fengyuan was puzzled. "Shouldn't we? The pill that Xiao Tian secretly gave us worked really well." She thought her might still be injured. Ziroyan was speechless. "Didn't you see the message he sent? Didn't you check the communication jade token he gave us?" Luo Fengyuan blinked, completely perplexed. "What message?" Ziroyan facepalmed. "I really can't with you." While he was hugging us and giving us the pill, he also handed us a communication jade token. "Check what he wrote." Embarrassed, Luo Fengyuan stammered, "I thought that was a love gift." Frustrated to the point of almost losing control, Ziroyan clenched her fist and yelled, "Can you please use your brain instead of just your boobs?" Luo Fengyuan, whose thought process was a bit slower than others, finally pulled out the communication jade token Xiao Tian had given her. After lightly infusing it with spiritual energy, she began to read the content about a simple overview of the performance art, subsequent script arrangements, and the feasibility of selected research options. After reading it, Luo Fengyuan quickly put the jade token away, mumbling to herself, "So, I'm just supposed to pretend to be so beaten up that I can't take care of myself? I'm totally confident I can play the part of a seriously ill patient." The next second, Luo Fengyuan's expression became serious. She suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, looking as if an old injury had flared up. With an astonishing look in her eyes, women truly are naturally good at disguising. She suddenly fell back, landing on her bodyguard, the eldest. Her shaky fingers reached towards the sky as her eyes grew blurry, softly calling for Xiao Tian. The eldest was speechless. "Your Majesty, you might have overdone the acting a bit. Look at the Great Flames Prime Minister Zhong Yangming. He's nailing it." Luo Fengyuan turned to look and saw Zhong Yangming standing upright with a serious and solemn expression on his face. He was silently watching Xiao Tian's fierce battle in the sky, and even his tears were perfectly timed, silently falling. Luo Fengyuan was flabbergasted. "Look at his acting. That scene where he's watching Xiao Tian risk his life to save others is even better than my scripted performance." But just by watching Xiao Tian's fighting style and his life-risking demeanor, Zhong Yangming knew, this familiar fighting style, this familiar acting skill, the prince is definitely up to something and he's fully committed to his performance. As he thought, Zhong Yangming stole glances at Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji beside him. "The prince is forcing them to make a move. You two better not let down the prince's acting. Hurry up, I want to go back and cook something delicious for the prince." Just then, a tremendous sound echoed through the sky. Xiao Tian and Yuan Ba separated once again after their head-on clash. They floated in the air, facing each other. Yuan Ba's massive body began to shrink, his reddened skin gradually returning to normal, his body full of cracking wounds that were continuously oozing fresh blood. Yet, he continued to stare fixedly at Xiao Tian. Meanwhile, Xiao Tian was also drenched in sweat, his body covered in stolen blood. He was gasping heavily, looking completely exhausted. Seeing this, Zhou Tianji's eyes lit up. He thought the opportunity had come. "Strike now!" Eastern Gaoxian chuckled lightly. "I've been prepared for this. I've been waiting for him to be worn down by Yuan Ba." With that, the two of them soared into the sky, accompanied by a burst of spiritual power, and charged towards Xiao Tian. However, the moment they moved, a mocking smile appeared on Xiao Tian's face. "I've been waiting for you for quite some time." Xiao Tian quickly turned around, his hands moving rapidly to form a spell, his eyes filled with a resolve that looked like he was ready to face death. He shouted, "Explosive lobster." At that moment, the golden flames enveloping Xiao Tian suddenly turned crimson. An overwhelming aura surged toward the sky. Zhou Tianji's face changed dramatically, shouting, "Not good. He still has energy left." Eastern Gaoxian was visibly annoyed. This beast is really hard to deal with. But at this point, there was no turning back. The spear in his hand transformed into a red dragon shadow, blasting towards Xiao Tian. Yuan Ba also raised his fist, gathering the last of his strength. Blood sprayed from his wounds as he roared, "Kill him!" The three sides joined forces against Xiao Tian, and upon impact, a rumble reverberated throughout the sky. It seemed as though the entire sky had exploded. After the explosion, all four were sent flying back, spitting out blood from their mouths. Xiao Tian accurately landed on Ziruoyan and Luo Luo Fengyuan. Both women immediately cried out in worried tones. Brother Xiao Tian, who was propped up by the two of them, seemed as though he would pass away the next second. Little did they know, what he was thinking at that moment was, these two wives of mine are really lacking. Why are they just holding me and not saying their lines? Just then, a heartbreaking and touching voice rang out. Prince, what's happened to you? Lifting his head, Xiao Tian saw Zhong Yangming running towards him in a state of utter despair, even using spiritual power to amplify his voice. Xiao Tian slightly smiled. You really understand the situation. Zhong Yangming rolled and crawled toward him, crying out, Prince, what's happened to you? Xiao Tian coughed a few times and said with some difficulty, I used that ancient secret technique from the ancient god race's scriptures. Zhong Yangming gasped in surprise. What? You mean the legendary technique that burns your lifespan and soul? The last-ditch effort? Zhong Yangming looked horrified, his body trembling and his face filled with disbelief. Then his expression changed to one of utter despair. Prince, you're being foolish. You've actually used that technique? That's trading your life. If you're gone, how will we live? Zhong Yangming even began to sob uncontrollably. One couldn't help but admire his loyalty. Xiao Tian was extremely pleased and winked at him. My personal chef is so reliable. With that acting, you must win an Oscar this year. Luo Fengyuan and Zi Ruoyan also looked at Zhong Yangming with admiration. Truly worthy of being the prime minister. Quick reactions, excellent performance, completely different from the script, obviously improvised, and yet so high quality. Well done, well done. Just then, a violent coughing sound rang out. Eastern Gaoxian, Zhou Tianji, and Yuan Ba were all seriously injured and wobbly, barely able to stand. Seeing this, Zi Ruoyan's face suddenly turned angry as she unleashed her aura, also igniting a golden glow. Brother Xiao, I will avenge you, she said, lifting a golden greatsword, emanating a chilling aura. She took step by step toward the trio. Do you think you can stop me now? Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji had not yet recovered. Facing Zi Ruoyan's sudden onslaught, both looked dismayed for a moment, and then gritted their teeth in the next second. How did it come to this when everything was going so well? Zhou Tianji was visibly angered. Zi Ruoyan, we may have failed this time, but you won't win either. Zi Ruoyan looked at them and slowly shook her head. I don't know about winning, but I do know you're going to die under my sword. Just then, a female voice abruptly rang out. Little girl, you're quite arrogant, aren't you? The space nearby seemed to twist, and the next moment, a figure appeared as if walking out from a mirror. She floated in midair. This woman was named Zi Xinlian and had golden hair identical to Zi Ruoyan's. As soon as the woman appeared, Eastern Gaoxian and the others, despite their injuries, immediately knelt and greeted in unison. Welcome, my lord. The woman waved her hand to signal them to rise, but her voice was icy cold. You have disappointed the elderly. A mere body cultivator, using the ancient god race's forbidden technique, has left you in such a sorry state. The woman then looked behind Zi Ruoyan and said sarcastically with a face full of regret, it's a shame that this person is going to die. The elderly is quite curious about this so-called super earthling. She paused, her expression suddenly shifting to utter bewilderment. Wait, where did that Xiao Tian, who was supposed to be waiting for death, go? The next moment, Eastern Gaoxuan's face turned pale as he trembled and pointed behind her. My lord, behind you. The woman sharply turned around only to be greeted by Xiao Tian's cheerful face. Hello there, gotcha. The woman's hairs stood on end, and the space around her distorted as she instantly increased the distance between them. She then looked at Xiao Tian, who had silently appeared beside her without her noticing. What's more, he seemed completely unscathed. The woman looked at him incredulously, her eyes filled with countless questions and confusion. Xiao Tian wore a mocking smile. So there is a puppet master behind the scenes. You've finally shown yourself. Quite the secretive one, aren't you? System Puppy also analyzed. She seems to be practicing the Tao of space. She can use the distortion of space to hide herself in a spatial layer for covert observation. I have now locked onto her aura. She won't escape or go missing. Eastern Gaoxian and Zhou Tianji also looked at Xiao Tian in horror, their minds in turmoil. Were we tricked? Was the one truly harmed by that intense collision just us? The woman, coming to her senses, twisted her head to look at Zi Ruoyan and found her to be utterly composed, and the holy demon Empress Luo Fengyuan also calmly stood up, showing no signs of severe injury at all. The most outrageous part is Zhong Yangming, who currently appears as if nothing happened, as if he wasn't the one who was weeping earlier. This was all a performance they put on together. The woman clenched her fists and glared at Xiao Tian. You deceived me? This is impossible. The elderly was hiding in a spatial layer. How could you have possibly found me? Xiao Tian sneered. You thought hiding in a spatial layer would make you invincible? Unfortunately, you have too many flaws in my eyes. Hearing this, Zi Xinlian was bewildered. Isn't he just a nobody summoned by Zi Ruoyan using a summoning charm? What could he possibly discover? Xiao Tian crossed his arms and shook his head regretfully. I initially had no suspicions that someone else was behind them. Then, Xiao Tian suddenly pointed to the war furnace above, shouting angrily. It wasn't until I saw that the war furnace was filled with commoners captured by the Eastern Flame Kingdom and the Astral Pavilion that I understood. You were exploiting my kindness to force me to act. Woman, you've definitely set your sights on me, but unfortunately, you're playing with fire. Xiao Tian spoke earnestly, filled with righteous indignation. expression, but Zi Xinlian was utterly baffled. Where did you get that idea? I didn't think highly of you before. Xiao Tian, not noticing her expression, continued analyzing on his own. You must have gathered intelligence and realized my strength. You wanted to study me and later found out that I can't stand to see commoners suffer, so you used the lives of commoners to threaten me. Unfortunately for you, I turned the tables and drew you out with an excellent performance. At this point, Xiao Tian turned around and pointed excitedly at her. It's really unfortunate that your sinister intentions have exposed you. Before the insight of my penetrating mind that sees through all darkness and evil will have nowhere to hide. As soon as Xiao Tian's words fell, the commoners nearby all began to clap enthusiastically. Although they didn't understand what Xiao Tian was saying, seeing him accuse the bad woman with such flair and charisma was enough for them. Clapping is the right thing to do. Beside him, Zhong Yangming rubbed his forehead, internally speechless. He knew that the prince's old habit had acted up again. Finally, Zi Xinlian could no longer contain herself. Clenching her fists, she yelled, "Stop talking nonsense. I, the elderly, have no interest in you." In her view, this man must be crazy. Why would she waste time focusing on him? However, Xiao Tian couldn't help but shake his head, wagging his index finger. Don't try to dodge it. Look at the angry corner of your mouth. Can't accept the reality that your long-concocted plans were exposed by me? At that moment, Eastern Gaoxian below suddenly pointed at Xiao Tian and shouted angrily, "Xiao Tian, don't be delusional. You're just a body cultivation with no future. You could never catch the eye of an empress." Xiao Tian thought that Eastern Gaoxian was just being irresponsible. You're an emperor, for heaven's sake. How can you lie without even blushing? This is disappointing. Eastern Gaoxian was so angered that she was shaking all over and couldn't think of any words to rebut. "Xiao Tian, do you know what you're—" Xiao Tian disdainfully turned his head away, interrupting, "I don't want to talk to shameless people. Don't call me." Then he suddenly looked toward Zhou Tianji on the side. "You're quite ugly. Don't talk to me. I won't entertain you." Zhou Tianji was stunned for a moment. His face, which was calm just a moment ago, twisted in anger. This guy is infuriating. I didn't even want to talk to him. And also, how am I ugly? Eastern Gaoxian was grinding her teeth. If he could beat him, he would have shown him by now. As for Yuan Ba standing behind him, he felt even worse. Why is he only talking about them? What about me? Does he look down on me? Do I have no presence at all? At that moment, Zi Xinlian waved her little hand. Stop wasting time talking to him. The Holy Dragon Relic is more important. Elderly, deal with this Xiao Tian. The rest of you take action now. Luo Fengyuan's expression changed. I didn't expect their real aim to be the Holy Dragon Relic. How many more secrets are behind all this? Zi Ruoyan was confused. What is the Holy Dragon Relic? Is it important? Xiao Tian had the most significant reaction when he heard about the Holy Dragon Relic. He couldn't help but inhale sharply, pointing at Zi Xinlian and exclaiming, "What? Holy Dragon Relic? Woman, your scheming is terrifying." So, Lu Outyin using the Trap Void Turbulence Rune formation was all your plan. Zi Xinlian was almost at her wit's end. What are you babbling about now? Making wild guesses without evidence? The next second, Xiao Tian pulled out a miniaturized Holy Dragon Relic from his system space. You want evidence? Here it is. The Holy Dragon Relic is right here. This is the biggest evidence. You manipulated Lu Outyin to take me to the Holy Dragon Relic, and then used my power to bring the Holy Dragon Relic back and hand it over right in front of you. You're truly malicious. A woman's heart is most venomous. Zi Xinlian was left speechless and dumbfounded, but the biggest shock was because she could clearly feel that the miniaturized object in Xiao Tian's hand was really the Holy Dragon Relic. According to records, there must be a Holy Dragon Relic near the War Furnace, personally crafted by the human emperor. However, the Holy Dragon Relic is still there, so she couldn't understand why Xiao Tian also had one in his hand. Luo Fengyuan, who was standing nearby, couldn't help but exclaim, "It's really the Holy Dragon Relic, and it was personally crafted by the human emperor." Only Zi Ruoyan was still confused and asked, "What exactly is the Holy Dragon Relic? Does it have something to do with your bloodline?" Luo Fengyuan began to slowly explain its significance to her. Just then, because the Holy Dragon Relic had come out from the system space, Xiao Yuer also flashed out and floated onto Xiao Tian's shoulder, chirping, "Daddy, is the matter resolved?" Long Chiodao's figure also gradually appeared. He looked around, his expression somewhat desolate. So this is the protective realm constructed by the human emperor at the cost of his life. However, when Luo Fengyuan heard Xiao Yuer call Daddy, he felt as if he had turned to stone. Did I just become a mother without feeling any pain? Zi Ruoyan frowned. This little girl is actually a human form created by a spiritual body. Only Zi Xinlian, upon seeing Xiao Yuer emerge, began to look excited. This aura, it really is the aura of the human emperor's Holy Dragon Relic. Xiao Tian, you've really helped a lot. Saved so much effort. As she spoke, Zi Xinlian waved her hand grandly and the space around began to distort. Since the Holy Dragon Relic has already come into Xiao Tian's hands, why bother staying in this protective realm? Why not come with me to the southern wilderness realm outside? As Zi Xinlian's words fell, under the distortion of space, Xiao Tian, Xiao Yuer, and Long Qiudao were all taken away by her. Not only that, even Eastern Gaoxian, Zhou Tianji, and Yuan Ba below were also swept into the space. The many commoners all looked up, unable to understand what was happening before their eyes. In their view, what kind of existence was that purple spatial distortion force? Luo Fengyuan's personal guard, the eldest, who hailed from the foreign realms, immediately perceived the secret behind the situation. He quickly shouted to Luo Fengyuan, "Empress, Prince Xiao is in danger. This woman is likely of the 17th level and can harness certain spatial powers. Prince and the others have probably been taken to the southern wilderness realm. Once they regain their powers, I fear the odds are not in the prince's favor." At that moment, Luo Fengyuan was still reeling from the shock of discovering that Xiao Tian had a daughter and replied weakly, "I am aware. You all stay here and help rescue the people from the war furnace. I will go." As she said this, Luo Fengyuan picked up a black scythe and turned to look at Ziruoyan. "What do we do, Zibun? We've been cuckolded, haven't we?" The next second, a thumping sound could be heard. Ziruoyan, with a face displaying frustration, smacked Luo Fengyuan on the head with her hand, shouting, "Would you please think for a moment? That little girl has no scent of flesh and blood. She's likely some kind of spiritual entity. And haven't you noticed that the little girl looks nothing like Lord Xiao? She's probably adopted. Is that so?" Luo Fengyuan's spirit lifted instantly. Ziruoyan looked both exasperated and amused. She sighed in resignation and said, "If you don't believe me, just ask him directly when you see him. Don't make wild guesses like Lord Xiao. The more you guess, the more absurd it gets." Yet Luo Fengyuan looked puzzled once again. Was Brother Xiao really just making wild guesses? It sounded quite logical. After a prolonged silence, Ziruoyan finally spoke again. "I've been thinking, perhaps the reality is indeed as Lord Xiao speculated. But right now, the most crucial thing is to go and assist Lord Xiao." Saying this, Ziruoyan dashed towards the north. Luo Fengyuan hurriedly followed, trying to stop her. "You can't go. You're not strong enough. You'll die." Unexpectedly, Ziruoyan turned around suddenly, her face resolute. "Even if I die, I want to be by his side." In the end, the two women quickly vanished from everyone's sight. Zhong Yanming watched them depart and couldn't help but sigh. Her Majesty has truly grown up. For Prince Xiao, she even knows how to tell white lies with her eyes wide open now. Beside him, Zhongling and Zhong Lishuan approached. "Do you think the prince will be alright?" one of them asked. "Yes, once he leaves the sealed realm, he will be facing beings far beyond his level," added the other. Zhong Yanming gently patted his daughter's head, speaking with a light-hearted chuckle. "Don't worry, the prince will be fine. I remember when he was kidnapped to the Black Soul Hall. I've seen the measures Prince Xiao can take. Even the divine dragons that enforce the rules of heaven and earth personally massaged him. Levels and realms are not a concern for him." Pausing a moment, Zhong Yanming added, "In fact, if they were defeated by the prince here, they might have had a more peaceful death." "Why?" asked Zhongling, a puzzled look on her face. "Because knowing the truth and then dying in despair is too painful. Plus, before they die, the prince would mess with their minds," explained Zhong Yanming. Zhongling and Zhong Lishuan exchanged glances. Mess with their minds? More than just messing with their minds. Zhongling's thoughts drifted to the time when the poisonous marsh elder was forced to slap himself to death due to the prince's manipulations. She couldn't help but silently mourn for Zi Xinlian and the others.